Welcome to the Hoosier Dome in Indianapolis for the 5-8 Eagles against the 4-9 Colts. Good evening, everybody. Mike Patrick along with Joe Theismann. It's great to have you with us. Coming off a 9-7 season and then spending $18 million for free agents, this has to be the most disappointing season for the Colts since they moved to Indianapolis. And the most disappointing thing might be the offense that can't find the end zone. 7 of 13 games this year. Offense hasn't scored a touchdown, including the last 4, something Ted Marchibroda would love to turn around.
He really would, Mike, but you have to understand that a lot of times records don't indicate how good or bad a team is in this league. For example, the Colts probably weren't as good as their 9-7 last year, and they're certainly not as bad or as bad as their 4-9 this year. Now, what Coach Marchibroda told his team is, listen, forget about the first 13 games. Let's concentrate and win these last 3. To do that, they're going to have to score points. They certainly have the quarterback to do it, and they're going to have to get some big plays out of people like Sean Dawkins and Rosie Potts.
The Eagles are going to remember this as the season that might have been. A rash of injuries turned a 4-0 start into a 5-8 record. Now, mathematically, they're still alive for the playoffs, but Rich Kotite says, yeah, we might win the lottery, too. But the one thing you know about the Eagles, they have respect around the league because when you line up against Philadelphia, it's a 60-minute war.
And that starts with the head coach. Rich Kotite, in his 3 seasons, has done an absolutely great job. He's kept a positive attitude. His team, week in and week out, gives its best efforts. A prime example of that is Herschel Walker. Here's a guy who's gone out and been a very effective runner, been an excellent blocker from the fullback position, played special teams, returned kicks, and leads all NFC running backs in receiving. Herschel Walker's unselfish attitude has really been indicative of what the 93 Eagles are all about.
There's Rich Kotite, 7 games over 500 in his 3rd year as head coach. He has managed to do it with 7 different quarterbacks. Ted Marchibroda in his 2nd tour as the Colts head coach. He is number 3 in wins in team history, only behind Don Shula and Weeb Eubank. Colts have won the toss. They'll receive to start the ball game. Crowd of about 45,000 on hand here in Indianapolis tonight. And Roger Ruzek back for his 2nd tour this year. Cut in favor of Matt Barr, who missed a couple of field goals a week ago, including a 45-yarder with a gale at his back that could have tied up the ball game.
Yeah, but then he goes to New England, Mike, and he kicks 2 up there and allows the Patriots to win over the Cleveland Browns today. How can you figure it?
It's been a strange year for kickers. Rodney Culver, number 35, Clarence Verdun, number 83, deep to receive. Verdun from the 1-yard line. Stop short of the 20. There's a flag on the play thrown back at the 13-yard line. And this will go against the Colts. It's a clip.
There's a flag on the play.
Personal foul, low block, number 44 on the return, half the distance to the goal, first down.
Colts offense, Jeff George has always had the arm and the quick release. Now he's reading better and has only 6 interceptions this year. Reggie Langhorne having a career season among the leaders in the AFC in both catches and yards. He has a shot at a 1,000-yard season. The Colts upgraded their line with free agent center Kirk Loudermilk, a good pass blocker. He is excellent on the run. Potts the single setback behind George. 1st and 10 from the 8. In the flat, complete to Langhorne, and he's got a first down at the 21-yard line. Philadelphia defense, Andy Harmon has gone from backup defensive end 2 years ago to starting tackle. He leads the club in sacks with 7.5. Seth Joyner makes all the routine plays, then the big ones. He leads Philadelphia in tackles with 88. Eric Allen has been to 3 Pro Bowls in the last 5 years, tied for 4th in the conference with 4 interceptions. Clyde Simmons, the numbers not nearly what they were a year ago, but that's because of the supporting cast he has with him up front. Potts straight ahead. Across the 25 to about the 26. And this is what both teams have not been able to do, stop the run, and the one thing the Colts haven't been able to do on offense, and that's run it.
Mike, when we went to Tokyo to do the Philadelphia Eagle game way back in the beginning of the season, Bud Carson told us that his football team could not stop the run. And he knew it then that they'd have a problem, and he's been a real magician trying to get it done with the injuries up front and the losses of the personnel they had.
The last 3 weeks, it's gotten a little bit better because of the addition of William Perry. Gives him some size, and then anybody can't move. He's out of there right now. Millard in, number 77. Draw to Potts, and Simmons right there. Evans finishes up. Simmons all the way from his right defensive end spot, chasing down the big rookie from the Colts.
Big Clyde has been bothered by a knee for the last 5 weeks. Last week, he finally said it felt better. Bud Carson was really pleased with the way he was playing. Expects him to have a good night tonight. 6'6", 280. Not the biggest of defensive ends, but certainly guy who's been to the Pro Bowl, had 19 sacks a year ago. Can certainly make his presence felt.
Only has 3 this year. Third down, George to throw. Here comes the blitz, unloads, and it's incomplete. Langhorne would have had a first down if he could catch the football. Ben Smith, the closest man to him on coverage, but again, a catchable ball.
And I think this is the difference between the teams that have 4 wins and the teams that have 10 wins. It's plays. George does an excellent job of reading it. It's man-to-man coverage. He fires it out. I do believe that Langhorne probably got distracted a little bit by the umpire standing in the middle, but still, when you're open, you got to make a play.
Vi Sikahema wearing the shades indoors. Number 10 in the conference this year. Not a banner season for him. One of the great return men of all time. Takes it at the 24 and gets it back to the 34-yard line. The tackle made by Ray Buchanan down on special teams. Back in a moment.
ESPN Sunday Night NFL is brought to you by Gillette Sensor and the new Gillette Series. Gillette, the best a man can get. And by Transamerica. For life insurance and financial services, the power of the pyramid is working for you.
Colts had the ball for the opening possession of the game, had to punt it away. Now it's the Eagles' turn near their own 35-yard line. Randall Cunningham not cleared medically to play this weekend. Bobby Brister is in. Cunningham will sit out the rest of the year. Herschel Walker, the deep man in the eye, and they throw to him. And Walker brought down at the line of scrimmage. Belser, nice tackle. Take a look at the Eagles offense. Brister has played some of the best football of his career for the Eagles. 7 touchdown passes, only 3 interceptions. Herschel Walker averaging 4.5 yards a carry. He's not only the club's leading rusher, but the leading receiver, too. First-round draft choice Lester Holmes has provided a lot of help up front and made the right side of the line a force. Second and 10. James Joseph behind Walker. Stiff arm gets him a first down, and there's a flag down.
You know something, though? If I'm a coach, and the job that Ray Buchanan did, I'm definitely looking at the great tackle that this kid made. That's a touchdown if he doesn't make the play.
Buchanan, the rookie out of Louisville, and the flag will go against the Colts.
Our supermarkets, the official supermarket of the Colts.
Face mask, 5 yards. Number 34, the defense. First down.
Joe, you're right. They did clear out that side today.
Oh, it's unbelievable. Watch the left part of your screen. They're going to run a little sweep over this way, and watch what happens. This is a great job by the left side of the line now. The Eagles' left side, but look at, there's nobody home. There's nobody from there to the end zone. He's gone all the way if Buchanan doesn't grab something. That time, yeah, I gave up the 5 more for the face mask, but that was a saving tackle.
Rick Venturi, who has done a patchwork job all season long in the injuries he's faced. Brister tries to throw over the middle, and it's knocked down incomplete. Tony Siragusa got his hands up on it. And Siragusa, one of the reasons the Colts switched to the 4-3 with his size and strength, he can collapse the middle of the pocket. Jeff Herrod is the defensive leader. He's in every down, and he's led the team in tackles 4 of his first 5 years. Rookie Ray Buchanan has added speed to the secondary and won the free safety job. His 3 interceptions tied for the team lead. Syracuse, 6'3", 303. A huge defensive line that hasn't been able to stop the run. Here's Walker. They string it out. Belcher finally forces him out of bounds, but Pickett and Coriat strung
Mike,
out the play.
this is the first time that in studying film and in the game we did against Washington, Quentin Coriat has moved inside the middle linebacker. The thing about, here he is, number 55. Watch him finally pursue the ball. Instead of going laterally, he comes towards the run. See, he reads, now he reacts. This is what he hasn't done all year long as I've studied him on film. And last week, he really didn't play well. This is a good start for the young man tonight.
Third, call it 12, and James Lofton is in as a third wide receiver. Brister with time, goes deep and incomplete. Some contact, but no flag. Intended for Calvin Williams, who is laying it on the official who was on the play, and Syracuse says, get into it.
Big Tony. Goose, they call him. This is just drive, drive, drive. All right, now I'm going to keep on coming. And boy, did he come. Body slam.
Fiegels into punt to Clarence Verdun, who's waiting at his 10. Beautiful high spiral by Fiegels. Verdun, fair catch, makes it at the 7-yard line. Punt of 44, no return. Timeout, no score, first quarter from the Hoosier Dome. Welcome back to Indianapolis. Back on November 7th, Sean Dawkins dropped a crucial fourth down pass in the Colts' comeback bid against the Redskins. It's a drop Dawkins won't soon forget, and for all the right reasons.
I didn't see Jeff yell at me because I was looking at the ball when it fell. When I got to the bench, Jeff just came over to me, and I thought it was really classy. He just came over to me and said, everybody goes through growing pains. I went through myself my first couple of years. You're going to be a great player. I have all the confidence in the world in you, and that meant a lot to me.
Dawkins 6'4", 213, and over the years, you just have to believe he will become a favorite target of Jeff George. Colts start with terrible field position again. Potts. And the Eagles swarmed on it.
Mike, that experience that Sean Dawkins had in the Washington game, he really hit a slump after that, and he found out that, that particular one moment really said to him, you've got to be mentally tough in this game. No matter what happens, you're going to catch him, you're going to drop him, but you can't get down on yourself. And that was a great lesson that he learned.
Remember when we asked him, it ever happened to him before? And he just looked and said, never.
Never.
High school, college, nowhere, ever. Cecil Gray is the injured player. He is the backup right guard. William Schultz listed as a starter in that spot. He is hurt, and here comes Joe Stasiak, who will fill in at that spot.
Got to tell you, Mike, they're running out of people.
Yep, they are.
This becomes purely a body count now.
We'll check on the injury when we come back. First quarter, no score from Indianapolis. That's Cecil Gray, the free agent out of North Carolina. He's been with 4 teams in his 4-year NFL career, replacing William Schultz tonight. Made the start at right guard a week ago. Let's take a look at how he got hurt.
This is one of those freak injuries that happens in the game. He does a good job with his block. Watch his right foot. See what happens? All of a sudden, he gets fallen on. Ben Smith just falls on it and does something to it.
2nd and 10. We'll get an injury report for you as soon as we can. Here comes the blitz. And the pass complete to Hester, and then he fumbles. Miano recovers at the 24. The Colts did everything right. They found the hot receiver, completed the pass, and then they fumble at the end.
I mean, Ted Marchibroda, just all he's doing is seeing the same season over and over and over again. Here comes the blitz by Wes Hopkins. The post is going to come in behind it. It's a great throw by Jeff George. Jesse does a good job. Great throw. Excellent. Now he just gets the ball stripped and pulled away from him.
Eric Allen credited with the strip. Miano with the fumble recovery.
That's why Eric Allen is an all-pro corner.
Eagles set up shop at the 24. Walker And Herschel still on his feet, lunging forward near the 20-yard line. Walker over 1,000 yards combined offense again. He's done it every year he's been in the league.
Mike, I think that, in my opinion, the most valuable player for the Philadelphia Eagles has been Herschel Walker. Here's a guy who's been asked to play wide receiver, fullback, running back, kick return specialist, and does everything with the same enthusiasm and excitement in production.
Had over 1,000 yards rushing a year ago. Has touched the ball only half as many times this season. Play action by Brister. Bubby with plenty of time throws complete. Joseph inside the 10, first down. And that's something Bubby Brister couldn't have done earlier because his knee was bothering him.
He does a good job. You know, he works within the confines of what he does. Richie Kotite explained Bubby Brister very well. He says he plays within himself. It's a good play action fake. Great job by Herschel carrying out the fake. Now Bubby rolls out, gets in good position to make the throw, and gets the completion.
First and goal spotted at the 7. Joseph tries to cut it back inside the 5 to about the 4-yard line.
Bubby Brister on his left hand is wearing one of those gloves that's sticky on the inside. See it on the left hand? The reason why is in the Washington game, he dislocated his thumb. Now, the sticky surface inside allows him to handle the ball. But you'll see as the night goes on, he is handing off with his right hand on both sides of the football. That's driving, absolutely driving Richie Kotite nuts, but he can't hand off any other way.
Eagles third in the NFL in efficiency inside the 20. Second and goal. Brister, nobody home. Calvin Williams cut inside. The pass went outside.
Well, what that is, that's a pick play. But what happens when you rush a pick play, one guy doesn't get a chance to clear for the other. And what you wind up with a traffic jam. There's a good jam by Chris Good. Now, Chris does the job. Good does a good job of jamming it up and literally created a traffic jam at the goal line.
Third and goal from the 4. Joseph can't handle it. And Jason Belser was right there. Belser moved into the strong safety spot, and Ray Buchanan, the rookie, moved into the free safety spot. It's really helped their secondary.
Lower left part of your screen. Bubby drops back. He's got his one-on-one coverage. He just fires it. You got to remember, Josephs is a running back. If that was a wide receiver, he'd probably make the play. Good effort, good throw, good defense.
And really, Joseph hasn't been used that much this year. Ruzek, 2 of 4 before he was cut from the team. And now 3 of 5 as he knocks it through. The Eagles have jumped to a 3-0 lead on the Colts. First quarter, and the Eagles lead the Colts 3-0. The most dramatic fall off in the Eagle defense is their inability to stop the run. From 1989 to 92, they allowed only 2 running backs to rush for 100 yards. That's a span of 64 games. This season, in only 13 games, they've allowed 6 running backs to rush for 100 yards, including 5 of the 10 biggest days enjoyed by backs all this year. And that was one of the reasons to sign William Perry, listed at $335, much more than that, because he does provide some stability to the defensive line. Certainly takes up some space.
Well, and that's the key. He's a guy who can clog up the middle, and you're going to have to use 2 people to move him. There's no one guy in the league who's going to move return William Perry.
Ruzek for Dan from the 2. Clarence Verdun out to the 25-yard line. you join us next Sunday at noon Eastern, NFL Game Day with Chris Berman, Tom Jackson, and Chris Mortensen. Joe Theismann also there to provide the most comprehensive pregame show in television. Then at 7 prime time, all the highlights of all the games. Then at 8 o'clock, Joe and I will be at the Metrodome as the Kansas City Chiefs battle the Minnesota Vikings. And Minnesota stayed alive with a dramatic win over Green Bay today. And Kansas City cruising toward a division title right now.
And Kansas City really struggled with San Diego today.
Derek Oden is the injured Eagle. I'm not sure if it's just the games we have had, but it seems that every team we have had on our schedule has had major injury problems. And it seems like it is league-wide this year, and there doesn't seem to be any decent explanation for it.
No, Mike, I agree with you, other than the fact that, to me, a lot of injuries happen on AstroTurf.
Yeah.
Watch the lower left side of your screen. Verdan cuts, and you see him get hit, and you just see him go down. And to me, if the owners in the National Football League are going to pay millions and millions of dollars to these athletes, then the simplest thing they can do with all the money they're getting from the networks now is go build some stadiums where the athletes can play at least semi-safe.
Well, Norman Brayman in Philadelphia wants a feasibility study on building a stadium, a non-domed stadium with regular grass, with the real stuff.
Well, that garbage that they play on in Philadelphia,
oh, yeah.
It's treacherous, it's dangerous. It was that way when I played there 8 years ago, and it hasn't gotten any better.
Well, what's amazing to me is they're waiting another year until the warranty runs out to replace it. I mean, there's seams in that thing that hurt people.
Dollars, Mike. It's called dollars. Economics.
Oden able to leave, and as you see, Norman Brayman, the owner, and Oden being assisted off the field. The Eagles are hoping they will have Eagle Stadium by opening day 1996, hopefully built with private money, which seems to be a trend around the NFL now. Jack Kent Cooke trying to do the same thing in Washington. And Rich Kotite has seen enough players helped off the field. He has lost 15 starters for various periods of time this year. And you've got to hand it to the guy. I mean, he has had massive injuries, not only this year, but lost Cunningham in his first year. And somehow find a way to hold them together. 1st and 10 Colts from their own 25. Pot straight ahead. Absolutely nothing there because of Andy Harmon, number 91. 6'4", 265, and he just stuffed the big rookie fullback.
You know, Mike, for the Eagles, this week of preparation really couldn't have been that difficult because Ted Marchibroda, having coached in Buffalo for a number of years, has installed the same type of offense here in Indianapolis. So when the Eagles prepared for Buffalo, all they had to do was break out the same kind of film and prepare for the Indianapolis Colts offense.
George changing the play. Pump fake, now he's in trouble, and they've got him back at the 21-yard line. The Eagles closed hard. William Thomas, the right side linebacker, applying pressure in there. Clyde Simmons also helping out.
Mike, I want to show you a little bit of what the Eagle defense is trying to do. See, there's Ben Smith, there's Wes Hopkins. What happens is if he is inside, he's going to cut the receiver off from going that way, and he's going to come out here. Vice versa, if he's out here and the safety's inside, they'll go the opposite directions. Watch this. The route goes inside. Hey, that's easy. I'm up there to jam him right now. And Wes is backing him up on the backside.
Clarence Verdun in is the wide receiver to the far side on 3rd and 14. Movement up front, and they'll blow it dead. Dale Hamer, the referee.
Ball start. Number 88, prior to the snap, 5 yards, still 3rd down.
Well, I'll tell you one thing, Mike, they can't complain about noise.
That's true.
I mean, it's not a question of not being able to hear the snap count.
Penalty was called on the tight end. Kerry Cash is back in the starting lineup.
It's the quietest dome I've ever worked in. As a player or an announcer.
Give him a chance.
Okay.
Get it. Third and 19 now. George with time. Deep over the middle. Incomplete. Intended for Cash. He was covered very well by Seth Joyner, the do-everything linebacker.
This is an excellent job by Jeff George. It's great coverage by Seth Joyner. See the middle of the football field? Keep an eye on it when the ball is snapped. There's still not a safety in the middle of the field. Nobody in the hole. He just fires this thing. And I think that's something that Jeff George can have an opportunity to work on, and that's putting a little more air under the ball and giving the receivers a chance to run under. You don't have to throw the balls perfectly all the time.
Ron Stark, the 4-time Pro Bowler. Sikahema said this was the longest week of his life after fumbling 2 kickoffs a week ago. And he dives out to the 40-yard line. Nice return to 15 yards by Sikahema after a punt of 59. Be with us on Tuesday, December 28th at 7:30 for an NFL special. For the first time ever, the Pro Bowl selection show. Chris Berman, Tom Jackson, Joe Theismann exclusively announced this year's Pro Bowl team for both the AFC and the NFC. It's the first time the fans have had a chance to vote. So tune in and see how the coaches and players' choices compare with yours. That's the selection show. Tuesday, December 28th, 7:30 Eastern. Eagles again with excellent field position, starting just outside their 40. Brister goes to work, completes it to Calvin Williams. Here's something for you, Coach. This is a team that's 28th stopping the rush, and the Eagles come out throwing the football.
A lot of times you get trapped into what statistics tell you as opposed to doing what you do well. What Richie Kotite wants to do is have a balanced attack on 1st and 10. Throw a little, run a little. I think by the time we get to the end of this game, you're going to see a pretty even balance. So instead of just doing what the Colts don't do well, Richie's staying with his game plan.
Second and 2. Joseph trying to get the first down. Had to get just across midfield. It will depend on the spot.
On your right, Zeke Brakowski. On your left, Richie Kotite, the head coach. See Kotite with the plays in front of him, Barkowski not. Richie Kotite in the Washington Redskin game took the play calling duties away from Zeke. And, you know, he said, hey, I called him for so long. I didn't like the way things were going. A change had to be made. But the truth is, whether you're a head coach who was a coordinator like Zeke is, or the quarterback, if you were giving everybody separate sheets, they'd all call about the same play.
Yeah,
anyway.
you're right. 1st and 10, just into Colts territory for the Eagles. Walker, the deep man. And here goes Herschel. Spins out of a tackle. Still on his feet. He'll get about 5 out of it.
Herschel has a great philosophy, Mike, about while you're being tackled. And that's why you see him make so many yards and break tackles. What he does is when somebody comes up to hit him, if he gives them a lot of force, it's easy to grab him. But what he almost does is back off a little bit, and it's a little harder to grab him. And so as he backs up, he gets to reload and fire again. I mean, he is so cerebral and so good at analyzing this game of football.
2nd and 5. Play action. Brister for Williams. Calvin Williams to the 1-foot line. Chris Good overran the play. A gain of 44. You don't think Calvin Williams wanted the touchdown?
Well, the other thing is you can't make a play like that happen without great protection. Eagles do a terrific job of taking on the Colt rush right away. Look at the room Bubby Brister has to step up with. Now, this is just a takeoff. Good doesn't get a hand on Williams. Matter of fact, he still has. Now he finally puts a hand on him 30 yards down the field. Calvin's got an opportunity to run as far as he wants.
1st and goal from a foot away. Walker, the up man. No dice for Heath Sherman. He was smashed before he got to the goal line. Jeff Herrod got in the gap and pasted it.
Down here, somebody's got to be free. There's Herrod. Here's Koriak. Koriak's going to take the blocker on. Herrod's going to absolutely flatten the running back right at the line. They work together. Blocker's gone. Now he's yours, partner. Great tandem linebacking inside.
249 pounds against 203. Sherman again. This time there's room. Touchdown.
Heath Sherman with the touchdown run for the Eagles.
So Heath Sherman comes into the game for the first time, gets nothing, and then a score. That is the first Eagle touchdown in the first quarter since opening day.
A long dry spell.
Yeah. And it was the big play that set it up, something the Eagles haven't had much of all year. Tied for 26th in the NFL and plays better than 20 yards. Ruzek with the point after. And the Eagles take a 10-0 lead here in Indianapolis.
Quinn Coriat is the middle linebacker, number 55. And he's going to have to be man responsible. You see him over here. What's going to happen? Herschel Walker's going to come through, make the block, and you're going to get a touchdown from Heath. Coriat fills. Herschel gets under him. That's the key in goal line and short yardage. If the offensive man can get under the defensive man, there's going to be movement.
Besides it being the first touchdown for the Eagles in the first quarter, Indianapolis has given up 76 in the first quarter. That's the most in the NFL. So if they were going to break the streak, it had to be this week. Ted Marchibroda has seen enough of his team falling behind this year, and it's really not what they want to do. It's not a catch-up offense.
Well, you know, you can't. I don't blame the Colt defense. The first two series, the offense has not made plays. They drop a ball and then they fumble a ball, and they've just allowed the Eagles to play with 60 yards of football.
Exactly.
If you're going 80 and the other team's going 60, it's going to catch up to you.
So the Colts down 10-0 with 2:35 to go, first quarter of play. A lot of people feel this club is one good draft away from having a real solid football team, especially if they could get Steve Entman back from those devastating knee injuries.
And that's probably going to be at least another year. I mean, Entman, you're looking at Steve Entman coming back playing second half of 94, probably 95.
Shorter kick this time, and for Dan up near the 10-yard line. Clarence for Dan with a nice move. Pushed out of bounds at the 45-yard line. Otis Smith made the tackle. Big return for Verdun of 35. Scoring drive, 60 yards, 3 minutes, 33 seconds off the clock, and Heath Sherman scores.
And the big play is Calvin Williams. Now watch this. Chris Good does not put a hand on him at the line of scrimmage. Calvin just runs a takeoff or a go, but what he does is he finds the ball and Good doesn't. Makes a great play on it, concentrate, winds up on the 1-yard line.
Brister and Williams. A little congratulations on the sideline. They certainly earned that. Colts with their best starting position of the game at their own 44. Over the middle, complete, maybe another first down. Got it out to Sean Dawkins. Rich Miano made the tackle.
Dawkins needs to make plays like that. Not only does he catch it and come hard inside because he's a big target, but the other thing is he makes a crisp, good, hard decision. Makes the catch. Now watch the hit he takes. Miano just whacks him real good, and George just absolutely nailed the ball between the 8 and the 7.
And great concentration by Dawkins. You run that pattern, you know you'll be hit. Four-man rush. George under some pressure. Tries to flip it underhand to Potts, who can't make the catch. Good thought by Jeff George, but not great execution.
You think he's got a little bit of option quarterback in his history when he sort of, instead of flipping it like underhand, he throws it out like an option quarterback. He steps up in the pocket, does a good job of moving. Jeff's got good movement, but he is not going to run out of there. And Rosie just tried to run with the ball before he had it. Still, it's an incomplete pass. You're 2nd and 10. That's smart football.
Keith Millard checks in for Perry on the Eagles defensive line. Cornerback blows the pass incomplete, and a flag is down. The leaping try by Langhorne. He landed very hard, and Andre Waters.
He just throws an elbow into his back.
Unsportsmanlike conduct. Number 20 on the defense. A late hit, blow with the head. 15 yards.
That has been the trademark of Andre Waters ever since he has been in the league. The other players nicknamed him Muddy because of it.
Well, Dirty Waters, what they call him. But I mean, watch down the lower right part of your screen. Number 20 is coming up. Players on the ground. He just comes in. And the thing is the Eagles used to have the personnel where a play like this doesn't hurt them. But now they're not good enough on that side of the ball to be giving up 15 yards and just handing it to the Colts and saying, here's field position.
And I don't care what kind of personnel you have. It's a bad play because it's a dirty play. 1st and 10 at the 30. Potts. Nice cutback after they cleared out the right side, and Potts has 9. He's pumped. Evans and Waters made the tackle.
Dawkins and Potts, 2 young guys that have to play. This time Andre Waters reads the play, reads and reacts. Comes on up hard, and he's just a missile. He just comes flying in at people.
You know, with the injury problems he's had in the last 2 years, you'd think he would think better of making plays like he did a couple of plays ago.
He only knows how to play one way.
2nd and a yard. And George will have to burn a timeout. Play clock was down to 2. And we haven't had a game this year where we haven't seen at least 4 of those.
Well, you know, I don't care. I think you have to learn how to manage the game within the confines of the time. I think it's going to take this year for coaches and quarterbacks to get used to coming from 45 to 40. I would venture to say that how many ever we've had this year, Mike, next year that number will be half because the coaches will be more efficient with their substitution packages and their signals to quarterbacks.
Let me disagree with you because I haven't seen any sign of it getting any better. This is the 14th game of the year for these teams, the 16th week of the season with the 2 bye weeks. I haven't seen any improvement in it like somebody's actually figured it out.
Well, but they've never had a chance to. I mean, they haven't had a chance to figure it. It's going to take an off season. Now, Jim Irsay, you saw him walk around in a circle. He really has done a great job getting some personnel for the defense. I believe that this year, the first thing he's got to do is go out and find some people for the offense. He needs an offensive playmaker. He needs to go get himself, I think specifically, a receiver who can flat out run and make plays. That would be a big help to Jeff George.
And a defensive end on defense. And Irsay really upgraded his reputation with his personnel acquisitions this past year. Potts trying to make something happen. Stuffed and did not get the first down. Clyde Simmons the first to hit him. Potts trying to dance his way for a yard. May have lost one.
Tackled by Simmons and Wagner.
Indianapolis Colts going on 18 quarters without a touchdown. It's remarkable. 3rd and short. George floats it to the end zone. This might be it. Incomplete. Dawkins covered by Mark McMillan. Nearly broke the string right there.
And Sean Dawkins had him beat. Jeff George just put this one out a little bit too far. He went to the right place with the ball. But you got a guy who's almost 8 inches higher. Watch the right side of your screen. This ball comes out flat. Instead of taking a trajectory up and giving him a chance, if nothing else, to make a jump ball, he lays it out flat. And you have to just throw it too perfect. You don't need to put that much pressure on yourself.
And look at this. Biasucci has scored the last 25 points for the Colts. He's having a wonderful year, and it's a good thing for them. From 39 yards out, Biasucci now 25 of 29 on the year. He has been the offense. It's 10-3 Eagles with 2 seconds to go in the first quarter. Mike,
I want to show you what I'm talking about. Right here, freeze it. Right there. See the way this ball's coming out flat like this? The ball has got to take more of a trajectory and come down as opposed to running away. That way, at least the receiver has a chance to jump up and grab it, or it lands like it would in a basket. See how it runs away from him? See how the ball just runs away? You want it to drop down. You don't want it to be running away. It's too hard to throw. It's too perfect running away.
Here's one for you. November 14th was a long time ago, right?
Yeah.
That's the last time the Colts offense scored a touchdown. November 14th.
That was a long time ago.
Scoring drive for the Colts. They only went 33 yards in 7 plays, and Biasucci finished it off with a 39-yard field goal. Of course, like you said, they do not have the great speed. Their big playmaker potentially on offense is Dawkins, but he's a rookie. Langhorne has had an excellent year, but he is not the deep strike threat.
Well, they just need some. I mean, Dawkins, I think, is going to be a really good one. And I still believe Jeff George can be as good as Jeff George wants to be, and the personnel around him allows him to be. I think this guy here is absolutely a star, waiting to shine incredibly bright.
He has certainly made visible progress. He always had the great arm, the great release.
You know, you got to remember, he's taking a pounding here. Everybody says, oh, he throws off his back foot a little bit. You would if you had people in your face all the time.
And look who's back on kickoffs. Herschel Walker. He plays on kickoff coverage teams, punt coverage teams. The one thing he says he won't do is return punts. He said, I'm no good at that, pal. Biasucci to kick it away. Herschel goes 3 yards deep. They tell him to keep it there, and he will. That's the end of the first quarter here at the Hoosier Dome. The Eagles 10, the Colts 3. Welcome back to Indianapolis, and once again it's time for a word from our political sage and friend, Ross Perot.
Folks, I thought wading through the muddled mess of NAFTA and healthcare was difficult until someone told me about the NFL's playoff tiebreaker system. Sound complicated? Heck, why don't they just ask us to split the atom? 2 teams, 3 teams, division record, head-to-head, points, 4 points against. And if all that ain't enough, they flip a coin. Talk about your gridlock. Mike, this makes Capitol Hill seem like an efficient establishment. You figure it out.
Ross, I can't figure it out. And I do like when he calls me Mike.
I was just going to say,
sense of power.
Got real personal now, hasn't it? Yeah.
Well, I voted for him. He ought to. 1st and 10 at the 20 for the Eagles. They lead 10-3. Joseph picking his way for about 4. Let's take a look at the playoff possibilities right now. The division leaders, the Giants at 10-3. Green Bay now at 8-6 because they have the tiebreaker advantage on Detroit. San Francisco clinched the division today at 10-4. Dallas 10-4 finishes with Washington, and at the New York Giants they can still win the East. Detroit at 8-6 will finish at Chicago and against Green Bay within the division. New Orleans 7-6. Big game tomorrow night against the Giants. They finished with Philadelphia and Cincinnati. We'll take a look at the rest in just a minute. 2nd and 6. Brister, nice fake. Throws to Williams in the flat. He's about a yard shy of a first down. Let's go back to the wild card picture and pick it up with Minnesota. Big win today. They're 7-7, but they have to finish with Kansas City and Washington. Chicago at 7-7 goes against Detroit and the Rams. They may have the best schedule left. Atlanta at 6-8. They need a miracle at Cincinnati and against Phoenix. And Philadelphia, talk about miracles.
3rd down and 1, Eagles.
New Orleans and San Francisco after this one. Like Rich Kotite said, yeah, we can hit the lottery too. Maurice Johnson, the second tight end, in with Bavaro on 3rd and short. Brister, quarterback keeper. He's got the first down. Rich Kotite, very proud of his team this year. They have fought through a great deal of adversity. And it's not a stretch to say if they had a few breaks, they could be 8-5 instead of 5-8.
I think they could have won their last 2 games, both against Buffalo and New York. I mean, they obviously the Buffalo game I think they had. They just let a couple balls get away. And like you said, Mike, worst week of his life.
First and 10 for the Eagles. Brister straight back. Has plenty of time. Almost picked off by Good. Got a hand on it. Couldn't pull it down. Intended for Calvin Williams. But it didn't look like Williams came back for the ball, and Good made a nice break on it.
Calvin Williams pointed something out to us, Mike. We visited with him yesterday. He said the corners of the Colts really break on the ball well, especially on out balls. Watch this. See, Good's beat, but all of a sudden, see how he comes out of his break? Calvin Williams is doing his best he can to come back, but Good did a great job of breaking out and knocking the ball away.
Calvin Williams, one of the best route runners in the NFL. And Good has developed a reputation as an excellent defensive back. Here's the delay to Joseph. Can't slip a tackle, gets out to the 36-yard line. Jeff Herrod made the play on him.
Interesting about Herrod, Mike. He is an excellent linebacker. He moved from inside to outside. He's playing the outside backer now in the 4-3. But he's one guy, when you watch a game, when he gets his hands on somebody, they're going away. Yeah. He makes tackles, and the people go down. They don't gain 5, 6, 7 yards after that.
He dislocated his ankle in preseason, came back several weeks before they thought he would. Paul Richardson, number 81, a recent acquisition just into the ballgame, signed off the practice squad. Screen to Walker. He dives for the sticks. Let's see where they'll mark it. Short. Walker had blockers inside, went outside, trying to get to the marker and didn't make it, and is beefing about the spot. Short by a half yard. They'll have to punt it away.
There's the X in the middle. That was Herrod that I had the X over. I knew he was going to be there. He's going to absolutely fly. See Walker run across the formation? Now he moves over. Now watch this. Herschel's just going to give you hips and shoulder pads and thighs to hit, but a good job by the Colt D.
Burdan is back waiting on the punt from Jeff Fiegels. Oh, what a beautiful kick. Burdan, 60-square catch. Has to make it back at the 13-yard line. 46-yard punt. Great hang time and no return. Back to Indy in a moment.
ESPN Sunday Night NFL is brought to you by Cadillac and your Cadillac dealer. Creating a higher standard. By the Lee Apparel Company. With regular, relaxed, and loose-fit jeans and casual pants, Lee is the brand that fits. And by Pizza Hut, who reminds you that any time's a great time to stop and smell the pizza.
12 minutes, 11 seconds to go. First half of play from Indianapolis, where the Eagles lead the Colts. 10-3. Mike Patrick, Joe Theismann with you. Glad you could join us on a Sunday night. George to throw. Corner blitz. Smith is coming. Deep down the middle, incomplete, intended for Hester, and he drew double coverage from Miano and McMillan.
Jeff George has a very interesting grip on the football. I've only seen one other quarterback do it in the history of the game. Watch his right finger. See his right finger? There it is, right on the tip. Now we freeze that right there. His finger is right on the tip of the ball. There's only one other quarterback I've seen do it, and that was Terry Bradshaw. The reason Jeff George does it is because when he was a kid, the first thing he saw in a magazine was Terry Bradshaw do it. He figured that's the only way he can throw a spiral, and that is the only way he can throw a spiral.
Not a bad role model to throw from, especially a young arm like that. George in trouble. Keith Millard with the sack at the 2. Millard signed as a free agent in the offseason. Hurt his left knee in Game 6 after he was playing extremely well, and has been used in pass rush situations only ever since. This guy was the NFL Defensive Player of the Year a few years ago.
And there's a guy that he's worked against for years. Kirk Loudermilk was the center, was in Minnesota. Keith Millard was in Minnesota. They practiced against one another. That time, Keith got the upper hand.
In the Eagles' pass rush, that's 13 in the last 4 games in the number of sacks. They only had 12 the rest of the season. 3 wide receivers in on 3rd and 19, and Jeff George, with a play clock running down again, uses a timeout. 11:27 to go in the half. 10-3, Philadelphia. 10-3, Eagles over the Colts. 11:27 to go. Second quarter of play from the Hoosier Dome in Indianapolis, and the Colts are where they have normally been, deep in their own territory. In 9 out of 10 years, the span 82 to 93 times in that span. The Colts went for franchise quarterbacks. Art Schleister, John Elway, who would not play for the Colts, and then Jeff George. Schleister, of course, turned out to have all sorts of problems, and George is the guy they are banking on for the rest of the 90s and beyond. Back in his own end zone. Rifles it over the middle. What a catch by Langhorne. Holy cow, what a catch. Miano hit him while he was in the air. His body was turned sideways. He still caught it.
Reggie Langhorne is now, Bud almost goes, holy mackerel, hold on to him. That's why they invested that #1 pick in Jeff George. He just sets and fires. Good protection by the offensive line. I mean, there is no place to put that football. None whatsoever. I'll tell you who's as shocked as anybody is Byron Evans, number 56, the middle linebacker. He can't believe it.
Reggie Langhorne now with a career high in catches and yards in 1993. Potts quickly spun out of a tackle, but Byron Evans waiting for him when he did after Keith Millard made the first hit.
Jeff George has been so frustrated because everybody's talked about him and seen the numbers that Elway's put up and Moon has put up and Marino's put up. And in truth, I believe he has the talent, and so does he. And he's basically said to the organization, the Colts, he said, listen, you go get me the players like these guys have, and I'm going to show you that I can do the job. And I believe he can. I think this kid is greatness waiting to happen. Jim Irsay, in a conversation with him yesterday, told me his priorities were going to be that he was going to go get himself a big-time playmaker, a pass-rushing defensive end.
And that would really solidify this ball club. Referee saying that the fans should not throw objects on the field. Sort of goes without saying. It's a shame when you have to say it. Spot the ball at the 28-yard line, 2nd and 10. Flag is down. George sidearms this one. Complete out near a first down. We will check the penalty flag for you. Langhorne made the grab. And it will be an offside against the Eagles, and they may have to measure for the first down.
Offside, defense, the nose tackle, penalties decline, first down.
And it is a first down out across the 38-yard line.
Colts now starting to get a little bit of breathing room. This is an area where if you've got some kind of a play, this is a good one to run. This is where you run one of those little trigger plays that you have running.
3 wide receivers set with Potts as the running back. Play action by George. Chased out of the pocket, throws on the run and out of bounds. Langhorne somehow made the catch, but he was well out of bounds, and there's another flag down. This one in the secondary, and it will go against the Eagles.
Mike, that's a big problem you have when Bud Carson wants to blitz people.
Defense, number 59, 5 yards.
Seth Joyner.
Well, when Bud Carson wants to blitz people, right now, Wes Hopkins, number 48, and Andre Waters, number 20, are not what they used to be as far as cover safety goes. So he has to ask Seth Joyner and William Thomas to go out and cover people, and he can't stay with wide receivers. So, I mean, that's a problem that Bud's faced with as far as putting pressure on a quarterback goes.
There's Hopkins, the 11-year veteran, one of the most popular players the Eagles have had in recent memory. 1st and 10 for the Colts. George chased out of the pocket. Was starting his slide, hit from behind, got to midfield. Andy Harmon made the stop. There's another flag down on the play. This one back at the 36-yard line.
Holding, number 69 on the offense, 10 yards, still first down.
That's Randy Dixon, the left guard.
Left guard number 69. Keep an eye on him. Good move by Millard. Gives him that head fake inside. All Dixon can do is grab his jersey with his left hand and try and bulldog him down.
6 penalties so far total in the ball game, and it's 1st and 20 now for the Colts. George, the delay to Potts. Roosevelt Potts gets up to the 46-yard line. Roll block by Seth Joyner. He is a load at 2:58.
Well, that's what you
on Potts tonight.
Excuse me, Michael. That's what you want to do. You know, when you've got 1st and 20, gives you a chance. You figure they're going to be back in pass coverage, so you just want to pick up at least half, and that's exactly what they got. A little bit more than half.
George under some pressure down the middle. Langhorne can't hold it. Excellent coverage. Ben Smith was right there. Langhorne nearly made another incredible catch.
Eagles have got 3 really great corners. McMillan, who starts, Allen, who's an all-pro, and Ben Smith, who's coming off that knee, really showed he's back almost 100%. Ben Smith moving in coverage, man-to-man. Langhorne starts up, does a little look inside. You know, Ben sticks his hand in there, and Reggie almost makes the play.
And the injured player for the Colts is Langhorne. He got up very slowly. You could see he landed heavily.
He knows that the Pro Bowl voting by the fans, the coaches, and the other players in the league is tomorrow. Reggie says, I want to put on a show, give everybody something to think about.
And I think he deserves to go to the Pro Bowl, too. He started the weekend tied for 4th in the conference in catches with 65. 5th in yardage with 842. He has career highs in both of those, and he could become the 4th Colt receiver ever to go over 1,000 yards. And that's just not counting the history in Indianapolis. That's going back to Baltimore, too. Ray Berry, Bill Brooks, and Roger Carr were the other 3. The numbers updated through his most recent catch, 888 yards. And Aaron Cox, formerly of the Rams, checks in his spot. On 3rd and 8. Comes the blitz. George unloads, and it's short of a first down. Got it to Charles Arbuckle, the 248-pound tight end. But Seth Joyner was there, along with Simmons.
But you know, Mike, if I'm the Colts, I have to feel good about this particular drive, because I started back on my own 6 or 7 yard line.
And they moved the ball.
And I got myself all the way back to my own 3. And they moved the ball. Now, this is part of team play. Your offense has done the job. Now you pin the Eagles back, and you play for field position.
A couple of scattered boos throughout the crowd. People wanting Ted Marchibroda to go for it on 4th and a long 2, but he sends Ron Stark in. Back from the 12, Hammer will take it out of bounds near the 20-yard line. Return of 9 after a punt of 37. Big series for Keith Millard. Back in a moment. Monument Circle in downtown Indianapolis, all decked out for Christmas, and that one qualifies as the largest Christmas tree in the world right now. Beautiful sight downtown Indianapolis. Christmas now less than a week away. The Eagles take over inside the 20. Play action to Herschel. Brister dumps it to Joseph. He has his legs cut out from under him by Chris Good at the 28-yard line. Now, Ted Marchibroda made the decision, instead of going for it on 4th and a long 2, decided to send in the punting team. What do you think Jeff George thought about the decision?
Well, I think any quarterback wants to go for it, and he looks over and he says, oh, geez, let's go for it.
I think geez was the one word he left out of that.
Something like that. Yeah, but, I like the fact, and I like the decision. I mean, you're in this ball game. You don't want to give them good opportunity to have field position.
Ted Marchibroda may have pointed out, you may be the quarterback, I am the coach. Joseph trying to get the first down. Coriat pins him at the 30, but it may be enough to move the sticks.
Quentin Coriat becoming much more comfortable with the middle linebacker position and really becoming a lot more aggressive. He got blocked a lot last week. Now he just reads the hole, comes up inside, plays off the block, playing tough and strong. The last week in particular against Buffalo, I mean, they just moved him back and cut him and did everything they wanted to. Playing tough tonight.
Still learning the position. First down, Brister, play action again. Another blitz off the corner, and Brister goes down. Lost the ball, but after the sack by John Hand. Here's the guy who had some big years with the Colts. Then they moved him inside last year, had career low numbers, is delighted to be back outside at end.
Right part of your screen, John Hand. Tom McHale, number 68, is playing that left tackle position because Broderick Thompson can't play. And he's another guy who's filled in. I mean, here's a guy who's been a guard all his life and now gets his second start at the tackle position.
And keep in mind, that tackle can't see Bubby Brister backpedaling right where he's blocking the guy either. 2nd and 19. Colts put on more pressure, and Brister throws it away. Threw it at the feet of Joseph. The Colts are last in the NFL in sacks. They came into this game with 17, 3 below the next worst team. One of the reasons is that Entman was injured at the beginning of the year, and they switched to a 4-3.
This is a situation where Rick Venturi, the defensive coordinator, would like to try and blitz Bubby Brister. I don't think it'd be a great idea. I think he'll just play too deep, make sure the wide receivers don't get down the field 20 yards so they can pick it up and get pressure, even though you don't have a Steve Entman to get it done inside.
Entman hurt both years in the league. Brister to Walker on the screen. And the Colts swarm on it. Nice job by Dwayne Bickett to fight off the block, maintain his balance, and turn Herschel Walker back inside where he got a lot of help. Bickett is one tough player.
Mike, in the last 2 years, the guys that are playing linebacker for the Colts, Bickett was on the right side, Harrod was in the middle, Coriat basically was a rookie who played inside in a 3-4 in college. All of them are playing new positions, and they played well the latter couple weeks.
And they're excellent athletes. Fiegels, another high floating punt to Verdun. He won't make the fair catch after looking at the coverage. And can't get anything out of it anyway. Back to the 23, loss of 1 on the return. A punt of 49, and the Colts defense did its job. 10-3, Philadelphia over Indianapolis from the Hoosier Dome.
Clyde Simmons, the right defensive end of the Philadelphia Eagles, he's playing up front what used to be the strength of that Eagle defense. And by his own admittance, he said now as a defensive line, we're the weakest part of it. And that's just been because of the people that have left. They're certainly not the smallest part, I can tell you that, with the fridge in there. But, I mean, they've had a lot of transition, a lot of additions. Reggie's gone. Jerome, obviously, is gone. They've got some lighter players and guys out of position.
Could have been one of the best defensive lines of all time in its prime. George play action. He's only thrown for 74 yards so far. Gets this one out to Aaron Cox. Only his 3rd catch of the year. The former Rams' #1 draft pick. The defensive comparison in a year ago, the numbers that stand out here, you get down to the bottom for the sacks, 43 against 24, and the rushing yards, this year giving up 141 yards on the ground. That's the thing that William Perry has helped a little bit. It stabilized the rush defense. And Bud Carson has played musical chairs because of injury. Verdun comes in as a wide receiver on 1st and 10. And Georgia throw again. Under pressure, they got him. The 2nd sack for Andy Harmon.
Well, when you get down to your 3rd tackle, Joe Stasiak is playing the right tackle position. Andy Harmon, trouble with the Achilles. There's Stasiak down here. Harmon's just going to come flying around and make the play. 91 does a good job of just going inside. Stasiak doing what he can to try and hold up. Can't get it done. Right part of your screen. And Andy Harmon's playing as well as anybody up front for the Eagles.
Has a career-high 9.5 sacks. And now it's 2nd and 18 for Indianapolis. George throwing short, dropped by Kerry Cash. And then he's pushed by William Thomas, and then gets the crowd into it. Well, you drop one on Jeff George, you're going to get that icy stare.
I don't blame him. I mean, we saw it in the Washington Redskins game. I mean, here's a guy who's doing what he can do. He's put the ball where it belongs. Guy's got to make plays. You can't play in this league unless you can catch the football if you're a wide receiver. I mean, it doesn't get any easier than that. There's nobody around you. You got to make plays. Kerry Cash got benched a few weeks ago, and Ted Marchibroda did it as a wake-up call. You keep dropping the ball, you're going to wake up some other city. You're not careful.
Maybe the alarm hasn't gone off yet. Caught 38 balls this year. 3rd and 18 for George. Here comes the blitz. Throws underneath to Potts. Got a great block. Potts can't get the first down out of bounds at the 43. Stasiak took 2 guys out on the screen.
You know, it's so funny when a guy makes a play, gives up a sack, and all of a sudden he turns around, gets out front, makes up for it.
Now the crowd booing because they want Ted Marchibroda to go for it again. He's only down by 7 points from his own 42-yard line in the second quarter. Fans sometimes, you wonder.
Yeah, well, you know, as a fan, we all would say, hey, that would be great to go for it. But coach is doing the right thing. Coach Marchibroda is making the right decision.
Start. Pretty kick this time to Sikahema. Decides at the last minute to let it go, and it takes a great bounce to the Colts out of bounds inside the 10. A 50-yard punt from Ron Stark and out of bounds. A man with 3 NFL punting titles. Sammy Baugh and Gerald Wilson had 4. That's the best all time.
There's big number 79. The screen's in the middle. Stasiak gets up on Byron Evans, gets a hand on him. Then he lays down somebody else and just really creates a lane for Rosie Potts to run. And William Thomas, number 51, comes from the other side of the field. There he's in coverage. Now he reacts. Now off he goes. Now he runs him down.
Well, they're really high on William Thomas.
He's one of these great young linebackers like a Brian Cox.
Eagles from the 7. Walker. Herschel turns the corner. Puts his head down and bangs into Belser. You know, Herschel Walker in his career in the NFL has 7,356 yards rushing coming into this game. People forget he played 3 years in the USFL. If he had played his entire career in the National Football League and in an offense that was suited to his abilities, you would be talking about this man as maybe the best running back ever. He would be up around 12,000 yards and still can play a lot of football. Brister on the quick out to Williams. Makes a nice move to get extra yardage across the 40. Eugene Daniel made the tackle.
Good, quick, crisp throw. Calvin goes down 5 yards, runs the quick out. Now watch this, plant and pivot back. Eugene Daniels coming from the outside like you'd like to, except that you can stop and start so quick on the AstroTurf. Calvin picks up the extra yardage.
Brister has hit 9 out of 15 for 101 yards. The 2-minute warning in Indianapolis. Back in a moment. 2 minutes to go, first half from Indianapolis. Eagles leading the Colts 10-3. Coming up at halftime, the fastest 3 minutes in television with Chris Berman. Still laughing about that commercial. After further review, Chris and Tom Jackson, and then back to the Hoosier Dome for Joe's first half analysis. And he's also going to get on that ironing board and show us how it's done. Roosevelt Potts has gone to the locker room with a sprained ankle. For the Colts, we'll check on his condition as soon as we can. Brister wants the screen to Walker. Herschel Walker gets about 8 yards, knocked out of bounds.
That's a good job of using your blockers and knowing exactly what the score is, what the time is, and what the rules are. Got himself right out of bounds. Of course, the Eagles have 3 timeouts. The Colts had to burn a couple.
Walker has certainly shown his versatility this year, playing different positions, mainly fullback in this offense. Has caught a lot of balls, hasn't had a big opportunity to run it all year long. Brister, play action, Joseph. And Tony Siragusa made the big play that time. Got a hand on him and wouldn't let go.
Tackled by Siragusa.
You know, I don't quite understand. That's the old Statue of Liberty play. We've seen guys like Joe Montana, for example, does it in hands around. This time, Bubby, hands on the inside. Your third down or your second down and 3 in a 2-minute drill, just go back, either throw the ball or run the true draw. I think by taking as much time as you do there, you allow the defensive line and linebackers to react and make a play. Either go one way or the other, but don't try and get cutesy and put something in the middle. Not at this stage of the game.
In case you joined us late, we'll give you the updated scoring summary. Roger Ruzek, who has been re-signed this week, put the Eagles on top 3-0. Keith Sherman made it 10-0 on a 1-yard run after a nice Philadelphia scoring drive. And then the Colts came back with Dean Biasucci from 39 yards out to make it 10-3. Bubby Brister, quarterbacking the Eagles, says he would be very happy to come back next year as a backup to Randall Cunningham if he can't get a starting job somewhere else. I think he's playing the best football of his career. Brister throws, complete, first down, and it's Herschel Walker at the 46-yard line. Jeff Herrod on the coverage.
Well, you love a running back coming out of the backfield to make a good, crisp, definitive route. Herschel comes out. He knows where he's got to look him turn around. Right there. He turns around. He gets his hands up. Good tackle by Herrod, but a good play by Herschel.
He's got good hands, too. Brister straight back to throw under pressure. Herrod with a sack. That time, Rick Venturi came with the blitz.
One of the things Herschel said he felt like he was doing better this year was blocking. This time, Herrod, right in the middle. He just comes around. Herschel sets. He gets his head down. Bubby's right there.
Here comes another blitz. Brister unloads. Lofton, a step too far. Ashley Ambrose on the coverage, and Brister missed him by the length of a football.
You may beat Herschel Walker one time, but you're not going to beat. Watch this. This time, he knew Herrod got him last time. Now he gets down under him. He doesn't allow him to stay on his feet and make a play. And this ball's just a little bit overthrown. Bubby had it out there. James had the guy beat.
Got lost in the lights.
That's what happened. The ball. See, what you saw was James' vision. You saw the glare. All of a sudden, it was gone.
Very nice.
We can get inside guys' heads, too.
3rd and 20. Brister. Incomplete. Intended for Richardson. And that ball never had a chance. That was a jump ball about 40 yards downfield.
That baby looked like it fell out of the top of the dome.
Eugene Daniel in excellent position. And the Eagles will have to kick it away.
Well, I used to hate that. You know, a coach would call like a Hail Mary or something, or throw the ball down the field or whatever. And all you know it's going to do is add to your interception total. That's all it does.
Verdun. A returnable kick this time. Verdun from the 17. And can't get anything past the 22-yard line. Return of 6 after a punt of 39. Tomorrow night, college basketball comes your way at 9 Eastern on ESPN. The second-ranked Tar Heels of North Carolina take on the Panthers of Pittsburgh. 9 Eastern, 6 Pacific. And North Carolina at home beat Ohio State yesterday. Preseason #1 choice had an early loss, dropped to 2nd. Maybe Dean Smith's deepest team ever, and that's saying a lot at North Carolina.
What does he have, 20 guys who can play now?
I think so. Plus, if things go bad, he's got Phil Ford as an assistant coach. He can always come back. George with all day to throw, then guns it for Hester. Incomplete. Nice coverage by Mark McMillan. 5'7", 162. He just sticks to people like glue.
I'll tell you what I'd do right now. I would try one more pass. Okay? But you don't want to turn the ball over in this situation. I think Ted, what he's got to do is think about going in at halftime just down 10-3. Don't do something to take away the momentum of your defense playing a great half and your offense just having to make a few plays to make it a better one.
If the Colts don't get a touchdown here, they will have gone 4.5 games without their offense getting a touchdown. That's an incredible strength. George steps up in the pocket, then throws short. Cash trying to get out of bounds, dives, and they say no.
I tell you, that's a good call by the official right there. That is an excellent call by the official on the sidelines, Jeff Bergman.
Knee came down in bounds.
That's right. Ball hit inbounds. He was hit and tackled. Good call.
And George will kill the clock with 4 seconds left.
See, I don't know if this team realizes it has a timeout left. They actually.
It's a moot point now.
Well, you know, at that time, I think this. You know, there's a lot of different aspects of the game. I think the 2-minute drill is a separate segment. Inside the 20, coming out from your goal line. The game is segmented, and you've got to understand where you are in the game.
You saw Bud Carson a second ago. It looked like he just said back up.
They better back up pretty far because George has got a gun.
There's a flag down. George trying to buy some time, throws over the middle, complete to Hester. And Hester gets out of bounds, but the half is over. Now we'll check the penalty. Against the defense, they get another shot, and they will. So they'll pick up a quick 5 and get one more shot at it.
Offside, defense, penalties declined, quarter's over.
Good move. That's a smart, that's a smart move.
Why?
Because you're only going to get the ball on the 35-yard. That means you got to throw the ball 95 yards, and it's not a high percentage play. Too many bad things can happen. You could lose a receiver. Somebody could get hurt.
All right, that's the end of the first half. Our score, the Eagles 10, the Colts 3. Now let's join Chris Berman for the Acura halftime report. Dean Biasucci has it teed up at the 35 to kick away to the Eagles. And Herschel Walker awaits at the 1. Mr. Do Everything. Line drive kick this time, and Walker can't field it. They'll start from the 20. Take a look at the halftime stats. The Colts over 100 yards passing. Here's the one that is a little numbing. 57 yards rushing for the Eagles, 24 yards rushing for the Colts. Two of the worst teams in the NFL at stopping the run, and neither team has really tried to exploit it.
Well, the problem is, I think for the Colts, they've been backed up, and when they do try and do it, you get nothing on first down. So if you come up second down and 10, it doesn't do you any good. That's really been the problem with both offenses. They're getting no production running the football on first and 10.
Eagles will start from the 20 with Walker the single setback. Herschel with the carry. Cuts it outside. Gets maybe 2 yards.
Bubby Brister just plays within himself. We've talked about that. What that means is that you throw the ball out here away from trouble, and occasionally you try and put the ball down the field. Now, that's Calvin Williams down there. That's why he likes it. And then you dump it off to Herschel Walker on the side. So what he's doing is he's moving down the ladder a little bit behind, a little bit on the line, a little bit down, but it's all within himself.
And that one to the deep right was the 44-yarder that set up the only touchdown of the game. Brister. And throws incomplete. That was intended for Victor Bailey.
Intended for Victor Bailey.
That was an audible on the line of scrimmage by Bubby Brister. What he saw from the Colts is he saw the safety off. He saw the corner off. What happens, see the corner off, he wants to throw a little out here. Now they make an adjustment and they roll it over. Now what happens, the defense moves up. See, they've taken him out of the game now. Now they make him throw the ball away. Good defense by the Colts.
3rd and 7. Brister on the run, throws complete to Joseph, first down. Herod knocked him out of bounds, but couldn't prevent the catch.
Forced out by Jeff Herod.
You know, it's interesting, Mike. You got one of the greatest tight ends ever to play the game of football in this game tonight, Mark Bavaro. But yet, you haven't been able to see him involved in the Eagle offense. And I think that's a credit to the defense of the Colts. Say, this guy here can really hurt you. Dwayne Bickett is playing over him. It's two great football players matched up against one another. Bickett's winning this one.
Bavaro doesn't practice all that much because of the bad knees, but he is having an extremely productive year. He's out on the pattern this time, and Brister will go the other way. Incomplete. Looked like a catchable ball for the rookie Victor Bailey. Good coverage by Chris Good. Good throw by Brister.
And, you know, it's an interesting thing. You sort of have to talk to veterans to get a feel for rookies, because the rookies aren't quite sure what's going on yet. And Victor Bailey has been forced into playing with the injury to Freddie Barnett. He tries to make an over-the-shoulder adjustment. Remember when we saw James Lofton's mind get all confused, or I should say, Calvin, what happened on that play is I think the ball gets stuck in the lights and you lose it sometimes.
Lofton is in for Bailey. On 2nd and 10, Brister guns. This time, Bavaro is in the game to the 41-yard line.
Brister's pass complete to Mark Bavaro.
I was talking about him, Victor Bailey. When you talk to Calvin Williams, a veteran, he sees a lot of what he was like when he was young in Victor Bailey. And he says the toughest thing for this guy to learn is that he doesn't have to rush pass routes. That he can look back, he can relax, he can come at things with more pace instead of speed not always being helpful, but sometimes it can hurt you.
And that comes from Calvin Williams, who is a precise runner of patterns. Maurice Johnson is in on 3rd and 1 as the second tight end. And Brister wants to throw for it on play action. McClendon got him out of bounds. Did he get the first down? They mark it right at the stick.
Oh,
and that looked like a very favorable spot.
Oh, my. Remember, the football is what you're playing with in this game, not your feet.
And it was in the trail hand, his right hand.
You're right. It was in his right hand, and what they do is they mark it where his foot lands. Now,
that's a big break if they get the first down.
It's a tough call on the sidelines, but if they get the first down, this one belongs to somebody besides the guys carrying the football. I mean, that to me is a bad spot by an official. That's all that is.
He got at least a foot or 2 feet out.
I want to show you something, all right? Okay? There's his foot right there. Here's the football. There's the line. Here's the football back here. Now, to me, there's his foot and there's the football. I think there's about a foot or 2 difference in that. I got to be honest with you.
They would not.
And I'm being
the
generous.
First down.
But it don't matter.
Herschel. Not this time. Big stop by Thomas Sims, the young man who played so well a week ago. They put him in the starting lineup at left tackle for Sam Clancy, who has had an extremely bad back, and Clancy wants to be in on pass rush situations only.
And, you know, 11 years in this league, you have to. I mean, you've got to spot him. It's the same thing that the Eagles are doing with Keith Millard. I mean, you put him down as a specialist, let him go hard for a couple plays for you and get what you can.
Gain of 2 for Walker, 2nd and 8. Brister, play action, throws complete to the 42-yard line. That's Maurice Johnson, the tight end. Ray Buchanan made the tackle. Brister is throwing the ball extremely well.
And the reason why is a young rookie, their first-round draft choice, number 73, Lester Holmes. Watch him do a job. Keep an eye on that right guard. He slides to the left, pulls out, does a good job of taking on hand and giving Bubby a chance to step up to the left side.
Could be there the next 10 or 12 years and could be a perennial Pro Bowler at right guard. Walker. Herschel with a seam up the middle, gets to the 35-yard line. Thomas Sims made the tackle again. 7 carries, 39 yards for Herschel Walker. He's also caught 5 balls tonight.
It's interesting, Mike, when I talk to Herschel about what he reads as a running back, he says he reads color. What he means is if the guy's in white, he's going to head for the guy in white's rear end. See right there? See the white? That's where he's running. He's running off the white, not the blue. That's what he's looking at. That's what his vision tells him. Follow the colors. This guy's in white, so he runs behind the white.
It's interesting. He said, what color are we wearing tomorrow, green or white? Brister scramble, throws. Somehow Joseph made the catch inside the 30-yard line. Wasn't much room to squeeze that one in there.
They're really the right side of that Eagle line. Holmes number 73, Davis number 78. Really create a great throwing lane for Bubby Brister. Even though he slid to the right, Antone Davis still took the end out far enough to create a lane.
And when you put Mark Bavaro over there, it's a very formidable group.
It could be one of the great young right sides in football.
Another first down for the Eagles, an impressive drive. We're waiting for him that time. Sims again makes the tackle. Had some help from Buchanan, who was up there in a hurry from the safety spot.
It was interesting when we talked to Siragusa. What Tony said is he said, I don't mind taking on two blockers. He said, that doesn't bother me. He said, but if I'm going to take on 2 blockers, the guys that are being blocked one-on-one have to make plays. That time, Thomas Sims made a play.
That was what they had when Etnum was in there. You couldn't double team both of them, and they created havoc in the middle. This drive, 51 yards, already taken 5.5 minutes off the 3rd period clock. Brister under pressure. Throws on the run. Almost picked off. Excellent coverage again by Good.
And it wouldn't have mattered, Mike, because what happened is Calvin Williams ran out of bounds. You saw the official throw the hat on the ground. That means that the receiver has gone out of bounds. Would not have mattered unless it was intercepted. Watch him on the right. See, he's out of bounds. Right now, he can't catch the football. Only thing that could happen on this play was all bad. That's why he threw his hat.
Good with excellent coverage again. A young man who missed 4 starts with an ankle injury and a spinal compression injury that was very frightening looking. Clancy is in as a pass rusher on 3rd and 10. Here comes the blitz. And Brister sacked by Harrod. 2 sacks for Harrod, and there's a flag down on top of it. And they'll decline, I assume, the holding on the Eagles.
Jeff Harrod coming in 3rd down. This is when Rick Venturi likes to bring him. But you know what he did right there is he did not leave his feet as a blitzer, whether it be a defensive back or a linebacker. He kept control of himself, so when Bubby slid, he was able to make the play.
And that took him out of field goal range, too. Would have been a 46-yard try. Instead, Fiegels comes on to punt. And in a game like this, you can't give up too many chances for points. Fiegels sky high, just trying to kill it deep. Fair catch, made it to 14, and that is a great punt by Jeff Fiegels, even though it goes only 24 yards. The Colts have 3 sacks. Jeff Harrod has 2 of them.
ESPN's Sunday Night NFL is brought to you by McDonald's. What you want is what you get at McDonald's today. And by the Michelob family of beers, because some days are better than others.
10-3, Eagles with 8:42 to go 3rd quarter. And again, the Colts backed up, this time back at their 14-yard line. There's the fridge. And the coaches were saying how hard he has worked since he's gotten there. He's on the Stairmaster for an hour every morning. Poor Stairmaster. Can you see that thing? Seeing the fridge coming? But he's worked very hard, and he's made a difference in the defensive line. George and the Fridge got there. Loose ball. Eagle football. Perry and Simmons got there after initially very good protection, and there are flags down everywhere.
Holding. Number 64 of the offense. Penalties declined. The ball was fumbled. First down.
Mike,
Eagle football.
You talked about William Perry and what he brings to this defense. All he does is bring a push, and that's what he does here. Number 90 just keeps on pushing Loudermilk back and back and back. He just keeps driving and driving and driving. Nothing fancy, nothing cute. He just keeps on coming, and Clyde Simmons comes around and strips the ball.
Huge break for the Eagles. They take over at the 14-yard line. Walker and Joseph are the running backs. Bavaro in the slot. Brister over the middle. Wide open. Williams. Touchdown. And it looked like the Colts were changing defenses right as the ball was snapped, and somebody blew it.
That's what happens when you move a tight end outside of a wide receiver. All of a sudden, the safety doesn't know whether he should go with them or whether he should stay. This time, the safety didn't go. Bubby couldn't get this thing in the air quick enough.
Calvin Williams, with his 9th touchdown catch of the year, ties the record that he set as a rookie. Ruzek to make it a 2-touchdown lead. And he does. The Eagles, as a result of the turnover, strike on the first play. 8:30 to go, third quarter, 14-point lead for the Eagles.
Mike, this is what happens when you catch a defense rotating. Right now, they're set up in a double zone, 2 up, 2 back. As movement starts, you'll see this safety run up. What happens is Calvin Williams going to go into a hole that's going to be there naturally. Safety runs up. Weak safety can't get over. Bubby can't get the ball out soon enough. Calvin Williams told us, he said, hey, when I get in the red area, I look to find a hole in the defense. He didn't have to look very hard for that one.
No, he certainly didn't. Had 9 as a rookie, now has 9 this year. Culver and Verdan deep to receive. Clarence Verdan from the 8. And gets it across the 25 to about the 27-yard line. 17-3 Eagles. 8:21 to go, third quarter. Back in a moment. Site of the world's largest Masonic temple in downtown Indianapolis, built in 1928 at a cost of $30 million in 1928. Just beat the crash, I guess. Colts have the ball at their own 27. Potts back in the ballgame after being out with a sprained ankle. Crosses the 30 to the 32.
Mike, one of the problems you have with field position on kickoffs, and I've noticed this with the Colts, is watch the kickoff return team. As we go down, as the Eagles come down, watch where Clarence Verdan catches the ball. Stop it right there. Clarence Verdan has the ball. All the blocks are being made up here 30 yards away. That means that the Eagles have an opportunity to play off the blocks and make a tackle.
Colts back, keeping it on the ground, get up to only about the 34-yard line.
See, what happens, Mike, is you've got to move the blockers back closer to the return man so that when a block is made, he's got something to cut off of and head up the field. Right now, they're doing a good job blocking, but heck, they can knock you down, you get back up, you make a tackle. Brad Seeley, the special teams coach.
3rd and 4 for the Colts, who need to get something started on offense desperately. Comes the blitz. George with time. And complete. Langhorne couldn't hold it. Ben Smith was there with him.
You know, Mike, when you throw the ball that flat, and I know Jeff George has been learning to do this, and I think this is something he's going to have to work on. You have to throw such a perfect pass. Left part of your screen, once the ball, this thing comes out flat. There's nobody back there. You can hang this over the left shoulder. Instead, you have to put it right over Ben Smith's head. It's a tough catch. I mean, it should have been made, but it can be made a lot easier if you throw the ball to a margin of error side.
1 out of every 4 possessions this year, the Colts have been 3 and out. Sikahema with a chance to return. Drilled in the back as he got to the 33, and a flag comes in late after a 9-yard return.
40-yard punt by Rob Starr.
Holding, number 32 on the return, 10 yards, first down, timeout.
James Joseph, the running back, called for the hold. That will back the Eagles up. That's Clyde Simmons with his Randall Cunningham hat on the sideline. Cunningham, there's been speculation, might have come back for this ball game. Examined by the doctor in the middle of this week, and the doctor ruled the bone had not sufficiently healed. So he didn't give him the medical clearance, and Cunningham is out for the rest of the year. Rich Kotite said if he'd have been 100%, he would have loved to have had him back for the stretch run. But it's a moot point right now, and Randall will be ready for next season. So Bubby Brister takes over at the 21-yard line. Herschel, big hole. Siragusa closed it in a hurry, but couldn't hold him. And Herschel out near the 26. Quentin Coriat finally made the tackle.
There's Bubby. You're supposed to hand off with your left hand if the back is on the right side. I can just tell you that, for those of you that don't understand the quarterback position. And what he does is he basically hands off with his right hand. And I am absolutely shocked in the last 2 weeks that he has not had a fumbled exchange. I mean, that's a credit to his running backs and a credit to him.
Because his hand has to hit the running back every time he hands off. 2nd and 4 after the game, 6 for Walker. Here comes the blitz. Brister unloads, and Joseph drops it. And Coriat gives him a seat for his trouble.
Rick Venturi, he knows he can't hold back. He doesn't have the horses up front that can do it alone. The front 4 guys can't go it alone. So what he's doing is he's bringing those linebackers when he gets a chance.
He also knows his offense hasn't scored since the middle of last month. His defense has got to turn something in.
Well, the defense got to make a play. Right now, they're going to have to stop the Eagles and get the offense on the field with decent field position.
On 3rd and 4, Brister throws to Herschel Walker. First down at the 32. Almost every time they have needed something tonight, Herschel Walker's been the guy.
You know, in talking to Rich Kotite, Mike, Richie says, we've thrown like 20 balls to Herschel in the last 2 games. He says, sooner or later, people are going to catch on. He said, but they haven't stopped them yet. This is an excellent job of knowing where to go, making the decision with the route, and giving the quarterback a target to throw at.
6 catches tonight, 29 yards, 8 carries, 45 yards for Walker. Joseph tries to cut it outside, slowed down by John Hand. Then he gets a lot of help. Jason Belser, Harrod. Hand makes the initial hit.
Number 78, John Hand. The influence blocked by Herschel doesn't work. He holds strong in position. That time Lester Holmes couldn't root him out. And Belser comes in from the offside to put him away.
Boy, Belser has been playing very close to the line of scrimmage, giving him an 8-man front. 2nd and 13 after the loss. Another blitz. Brister throws. Bavaro. And Belser hanging on for dear life. Vintage Mark Bavaro with the great hands, the great strength. And the one thing about having him in an Eagle uniform, at least he can't kill him anymore the way he used to.
I think that's the happiest thing Richie Kotite had happen, was that Bavaro got rid of the blue jersey and put on a green and white one.
And Rich Kotite couldn't be happier with the play of Mark Bavaro this year. He's the most complete tight end he's ever had. 3rd and 6 for the Eagles. 4:04 to go, third quarter. Brister wants the screen. They've got it covered. So Brister throws the other way, and Joseph can't make the catch. Excuse me, Victor Bailey can't come up with it.
What a great job by Devin McDonald, number 57. Rookie out of Notre Dame. He comes in. They want to run that cross screen. What happens is they line Herschel up on one side, bring him across the formation. McDonald just went through Herschel, through the blockers, and put pressure on Brister.
Clarence Verdun waiting for the punt. 2-time Pro Bowler, but it's been a down year for him, averaging only 6.1 yards a catch. And they will blow this one dead.
False start. Prior to the snap, the left tackle, 5 yards. Still 4th down.
So that'll make it 4th and 11.
Remember that crowd that wasn't making much noise before? They're making some noise now.
I said, give them a chance.
I apologize. I really do. I apologize. They're getting a little loud now.
Tell you what, this is a pretty good crowd of 45,000 people for a team that's had the kind of year the Colts have had against the Eagles, who come in 5 and 8. No rush on Fiegels, and he gets away another beauty. Another flag is down. Verdun looking for room. Nothing there. Stopped at the 20 after a 48-yard punt. Will check the penalty.
There's a flag.
Illegal man downfield. They'll have to do it again. So twice in a row, Fiegels has gotten off boomers. Now I have to do it the 3rd time.
Larry Pasquale, the special teams coach, doesn't like it.
Since you're not returning punts well all year, even though Verdun is a quality proven guy, and Fiegels is kicking the daylights out of the ball, do you think about going after one?
I think on 4th down and 10, yeah. Because what do you usually wind up with? A running into the kicker penalty, which is not an automatic 1st down, and just a 5-yard penalty.
Now it's 4th and 16, backed all the way up to the 27-yard line. Colts don't show rush. They had double coverage on the outside receiver.
The other side of it, though, Mike, is when you've got a dangerous return man, you have to give him a chance to do something with the football.
Fiegels, another high but a shorter kick. Verdun got one step. Guess who? Herschel Walker was the man who forced him off his feet after a punt of 44 yards. Is he good or what? You know, Boomer, just another day at the office, and he is good. On his way to being the MVP again, you would think.
I'll tell you, there's another guy who's done a pretty good job tonight, who's pretty darn good, is Herschel Walker. First of all, he comes out, he makes a block on Heath Sherman's touchdown run. Then they're backed up in their own end. Well, you don't want to let him block all the time, so you hand him the football. He picks up about 20 yards turning the outside. Then when you need a 3rd down completion and you only need about 3rd and 6, you may as well throw him the football. And then, gee whiz, he hasn't done this. Let him go down and cover a punt and force Clarence Verdun to fall down. I mean, he's done everything tonight.
He is so much faster than he looks. Takes those little short steps. Never lifts his feet off the ground. George over the middle and right in the hands of Kerry Cash. He dropped it. Let's take a look at Jeff George's face on this one. He has got to be starched. That was a great throw.
It really was. All you can do is put the football in places where people make catches. They've got the middle of the field. The Eagles are giving it to them. The ball's in the air.
Catchable ball.
Gee whiz. We've seen a lot of gee whizzes tonight.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's
liberal translation.
It is so frustrating to do that.
2nd and 10. Comes the blitz. Out in the flat to Langhorne. Got the great hands he hangs on, but little Mark McMillan bangs his legs out from under him.
See, the problem is if you can't hit passes down the middle, you're forced to throw outside where McMillan and Allen are sitting there in 2 deep coverage, which means the safeties are up close to the line, and you're going to get no gains or hardly any gains. The safety's sitting there waiting. You've got to put pressure in the middle of this defense to force them out of 2 deep zone.
3rd and 10. And the Colts simply not getting it done on offense, mainly because of dropped balls. George rifles another one. This not a good throw behind Langhorne.
George's pass attempt was Langhorne. And Smith
1 yard in the 3rd quarter. Count them. 1.
I just think what it is the Colts are being forced into throwing the football when the Eagles know they're going to throw. And they're not coming up with the catches. We said it in the first half, Mike. That's just continued for them in the second half.
Well, like you've always said, you have to make plays, and they've had several opportunities and have not made plays. Ron Stark crushes another one. Sikahema from the 17. Stopped in his tracks at the 23 after a 55-yard punt. Stephen Grant, the backup linebacker, stuck him. Coming up, NFL Game Day next Sunday at noon, and you'll get a preview of everything going on throughout the NFL. Then at 7 o'clock prime time, all the highlights of all the games as we get into the playoff crunch. And then we will be in Minnesota for Christmas. And if the Kansas City Chiefs win next week, they win the division. The Vikings with a big win against Green Bay stayed alive this week. They'll try to do the same thing next week in that very uncertain NFC Central Division. Sherman and Walker are the backs. 2:33 to go 3rd quarter. Sherman brought down by Bickett as he got to the 30-yard line.
Bubby back there looking like one of those triple option quarterbacks. Handing off with 2 hands.
Take a look at the numbers on Herschel Walker, what he has done tonight. It has been his most versatile season since he was at Dallas and was used this way. 8 rushes, 45 yards, 6 catches, 29. 1 kickoff return was a touchback. Couldn't get his hands on another one. 1 special teams tackle. And now he's in there playing fullback with Heath Sherman at tailback. And Sherman doesn't get much. But it should be enough for a first down.
It's just a great matchup between Jeff Herrod and Herschel Walker. 2 really good, solid, sound football players. Watch this. Walker's to your right. He's going to come flying in. They're going to meet right there, and that's where the play's going to stop. Meet me at the pass. There's the collision. This time Herrod gets under Herschel, stands him up. His teammates have a chance to make the tackle.
It is a first down for the Eagles, who lead it 17-3, trying to go to 6 and 8. Remember, mathematically, they are still alive for a wild card spot. They just have to win their last 3 and hope. Sherman behind a great block by Walker and gets about 9.
Heath Sherman ball carrier, tackled by Ray Buchanan.
Here's that triple option quarterback, Bubby Brister. There's the glove protecting his hand. Now, we can't do it to the left, so there we go with the handoff. Rich Kotite standing on the sideline just waiting for disaster to strike. And Bubby's just, I am amazed. I've tried to do that from time to time. Sometimes when you get pivoting the wrong way, you try and do it. And I've had nothing but bad things ever happen, and he's just executed it perfectly.
Colts defense has to turn in a big play here somehow because their offense has been totally inept. Brister with time. Intended for Bailey. And good coverage by Eugene Daniel. Couple of good corners on this Colts defensive unit.
And you know, Mike, I'm thinking about the Colts. If they're going to be without Ettman last year, they switched from a 3-4 defense to a 4-3 because of Steve Ettman. If you're not going to have him next year, Quentin Coriat played inside linebacker at Texas A&M. Harrod was an inside linebacker to 34. I'm wondering if Rick Venturi, if you're going to be short that down lineman, maybe you go back to the 3-4, because you've got some pretty darn good linebackers.
I think Siragusa would make an outstanding nose man. There's Entman. He will have further surgery in January. Totally blew out a knee. Hurt the other knee the year before. Here's a guy whose motor goes 100% all the time. I just have tremendous respect for him as a player with the attitude he has, not to mention the physical skills that he has. And it's a shame for the Colts and for him that he's been hurt both years.
He hopes he can get back to the latter part of 94, maybe play a little bit, but he's probably going to wind up looking at 95. He's got a cable in the right knee now. They're going to put a cadaver tendon in to help strengthen the knee a little bit. But nobody hurts any more than Ted Marchibroda for this young man, because he knows how bad this kid wants to play.
Tore 2 ligaments in the patella tendon on his kneecap. And the ACL surgery will be January 7th to clear up the knee.
But I'll tell you, Mike, you can't take anything away from this Colt defense tonight.
No.
They have really, really played well. The offense has just not been able to make any plays at all.
Now they're faced with the fact they have to turn over the ball to try to set up the offense. It's 3rd and 1 here. And what should be the last play of the quarter. Walker. And Herschel lunges forward for the first down at the 44-yard line. And that's the end of the 3rd quarter at the Hoosier Dome in Indianapolis, a 14-point lead. The Eagles have been very aggressive in trying to re-sign some of their better veterans. Seth Joyner and Clyde Simmons got 4-year, $10 million offers. They both turned them down. Where does it stand right now?
Well, right now, if they were able to sign them before December 23rd, their salaries would not count against the salary cap. And that's what I think the Eagles are trying to do. In the case of these two guys, particularly Norman Brayman making the offers, I think it's good overture by Norman to try and sign his 2 most valuable players on the defensive side of the ball. But the interesting thing is, Seth Joyner doesn't want to talk about it, but he's well aware of the fact that the highest paid linebackers in the league make $3,207,000 and $2,900,000.
And they may try to restructure a couple of existing contracts. Eric Allen has already agreed to do that with his deal. But again, it has to be before the 23rd and backloaded to this year to avoid the salary cap restriction. Brister, nice play fake. No place to throw it except into the Colts bench.
Michael, that's what I'm talking about when I talk about Bubby Brister playing within himself. He doesn't have the ability of a Randall Cunningham to improvise and run around a little bit and wind up picking up 10, 15 yards. So what he does is the play is broken down. It's 1st and 10. Don't take the sack. Throw the ball away. Come back and play again.
I remember when you said it was important in your career when you learned it's all right to throw it away.
Yeah, it's okay. Incompletion is okay. It doesn't hurt you.
2nd and 10 from the 45. Time of possession. The Colts have barely had it long enough to have a cup of coffee. Walker outruns everybody to the sideline, gets near midfield. Eugene Daniel made the stop. Hope you'll be with us Tuesday, December 28th at 7:30. We have an ESPN special for you. For the first time ever, the Pro Bowl Selection Show will announce both the AFC and the NFC teams. First time this year the fans have had a chance to vote for it too. So all you fans can tune in and see how your picks agreed with the coaches and the players Tuesday, December 28th, 7:30 Eastern.
Also, Mike, the fans are in a situation to be the tiebreaker if there is a tie in the voting.
Here comes the blitz. Brister unloads, intended for Williams. What a catch with Good all over him.
Brister's pass complete to Calvin Williams.
Excellent coverage again, but Calvin Williams won the jump ball. A gain of 21. He has 6 catches for 105 yards.
I've believed that Freddie Barnett and Calvin Williams are the best tandem in football going up and making a play. You saw it in the New Orleans game last year. I believe Barnett made that. Watch this one. Bubby just hangs this up. Now, Calvin just goes up and makes the play. That's good coverage. And you can't really be in his hip pocket any more than Chris Good is. Calvin just goes up and makes the play.
And Chris Good is a little bit bigger than Calvin Williams, but he had great position on him. Brister now over 200 yards, 19 of 34. And the Eagles trying to salt it away. Sherman. And once again, it was Thomas Sims, the 4-year man out of Pitt. Fans that vote for the Pro Bowl team this year, their votes are counted as a third of the total ballot. The coaches get a third. The players get the remaining third. And as Joe pointed out, if there is a tie, the fans' vote will break the tie for selection to the Pro Bowl. And everybody wants to go to the Pro Bowl, including us.
Well, they do, and this is going to be our last year, and we don't like that.
That hurts.
What?
2nd and 7. Brister under pressure. Almost picked off right in the hands of Quentin Coriat, and he couldn't hold it.
We've seen Coriat break into the backfield to make tackles. Now he goes back into coverage. Bubby Brister is just darn lucky on this one. Boy, there's two things you don't want to do. Throw down the middle and throw down the middle late when there's people around it. Coriat goes back, and he just doesn't make a play. I mean, that's the difference in the Colts season, right? You want to see the difference in the Colts season? Take these last 2 plays. Calvin Williams goes up and makes a play. Chris Good can't get to it. Quentin Coriat has a chance for an interception. He drops it.
Great point. 3rd and 7. Looked like Coriat just went up with one hand. Brister with time. Throws short. Bailey. Flag is down. Daniel may have gotten a face mask at the end of the play.
Anytime you get up around the head, the officials are going to throw
Face
it.
mask. 5 yards on a defense. Number 38. First down.
A couple of really good young receivers in this game, Mike. Guys I think that are really going to have impacts. Victor Bailey for the Philadelphia Eagles, who Rick Venturi's got to figure out how to defend, and Sean Dawkins of the Colts. I think these 2 kids have really got a future, and Dawkins is playing because the Colts are thin on talent on that side of the ball. Victor Bailey has gotten a big break because Freddie Barnett was injured. They really didn't expect Bailey to play a lot, and he has, and done very well.
The thing I like about him so much, he's fearless. He'll go over the middle. Walker. Short of the 10. Colts defense trying to dig in with 11:55 to go in the game. Syracuse and Coriat in on the last tackle.
Like I felt when we did the Washington game 5 weeks ago, Quentin Coriat could not get away from the blocks very well. There he is, number 55. Watch him shed the block this time. It's a good read. He moves over, takes good position with his shoulders, and winds up delivering a blow forward instead of having the running back knocking him backward.
13th play of this drive coming. 2nd and 7 for the Eagles. Brister trying to run out of trouble and throws it away. Had Bavaro open, so I think he was just trying to unload it.
Really interesting. Calvin Williams said last night the difference between Randall Cunningham and Bubby Brister is that Randall is so comfortable in this system that now he can improvise. He says Bubby, still learning the system, when a play is called, pretty much has to stay with it and can't really move around and do the things that Randall can do. But I agree, Mike. You said something earlier. Bubby Brister, I think he's playing as well as he's ever played in his career.
Even though in 1990 he had 20 touchdown passes, but he's not making any mistakes. He's only had 3 interceptions all year playing for the Eagles. 3rd and 7, and they try a little trickery, and Herschel gets to about the 9. Well, they may not use that one again.
Little acting. Watch the job Bubby does to make you think that this thing's going over his head. You know, there's a lot of ham in quarterbacks. Watch this. Oh, my goodness. Where'd it go? I don't have it. Herschel does.
That's the old punter trick.
Great job by the Colt defense.
So now Ruzek will come on to try a 26-yard field goal out of Fiegel's hole that would make it 20-3. Already hit from 21 in his return to the club. Almost blocked, but he got it through. And it's 20-3 Eagles with 10:32 to go in the game. Jeff George and his club need points.
ESPN Sunday Night NFL is brought to you by Levi's Loose Fitting Jeans and by Radio Shack, your Christmas electronics store.
This is the first time since Randall Cunningham's injury that the Eagles have scored 20 points in a ball game. They lead at 20-3 with 10:32 to go. And the Indianapolis Colts, if you're holding your breath hoping for a big comeback, have gone 20 straight quarters without an offensive touchdown. That's 5 games without an offensive touchdown. And right now they need 2 touchdowns and a field goal. Verdun from the 6. And is stopped at the 16-yard line. Otis Smith down on special teams with a nice tackle. Scoring drive, impressive. 69 yards in more than 7 minutes. They had to settle for the field goal, though, to make it 20-3.
You know now, Mike, if I'm Jeff George right now, my mindset is, listen, forget about the score. Let's just put a drive together and get a touchdown. I mean, if we get lucky, we move along. But let's just go get one. I'm focusing on one score right now.
And heaven forbid somebody else drops a pass. His helmet's liable to pop off. Langhorn. The 24-yard line. Seth Joyner, the first man in there. Of course, this isn't the only year where the Colts have had trouble scoring touchdowns. Since 1990, they are the second worst in the league behind only New England, averaging 13.3 points a game. George on the run. Terry Cash hangs on to this one. May have a first down at the sideline. And a little applause coming from the crowd of 45,000. These people haven't quit, you know?
No, not at all. They're still there. And, you know, I like the fact that the Colts, with 10 minutes to go in the game, are going to a hurry-up. You know, this is something that Ted has brought back from Buffalo. They haven't really used it a lot, but it's a good chance to take a look at it as a part of his offense.
Was Marchibroda brilliant as an offensive coordinator with the Bills the last 3 years before he came here? Dawkins with a short catch. We'll get about 7 yards out of it. Marchibroda, an outstanding offensive mind, but you can't do much if you don't have the horses.
No.
All the plans in the world don't work. Of course, in Buffalo, he had the horses. Pressure on Jeff George. Scoops it. Over. Across the 40 to 45-yard line. Nice improvisation by Jeff George.
That's a left-handed pass. Now, even though he threw it underhand like that, it still counts as a forward pass. So that's 4 in a row on this drive for the Colts offense.
First down, Colts.
8:45 to go in the game. George throwing short. Langhorn making a spin move, getting some more out of it. Boy, you gotta like Reggie Langhorn. He's my kind of football guy.
Absolutely. He gives you everything he's got. That time, Jeff George read Ben Smith coming on the blitz, right where Reggie Langhorn was. Winds up turning around, making a play, picking up extra yardage.
He's a clutch receiver with excellent hands, and he's as tough as a $3 steak. George throws deep sideline, complete to Hester. You may see the hurry-up the next 3 games.
Well, I don't see a reason why. This is what they do well. I've been trying to think of who Jeff George reminds me of throwing the ball. It comes out hot and flat. This is like Namath used to throw the ball. Joe Namath, one of the greatest to play the game. Just rock it and fire it out. And that's exactly the way George let that one go.
From the 24 in the shotgun. Over the middle. The goal line. Terry Cash got one hand on it and couldn't bring it in. Holy cow.
Jeff George just fires this one. Just read his eyes. See him look outside. He held the safety that time. He throws this one down. That would have been a great catch.
Yeah, it would have.
I mean, Terry, you can't blame him. It's a great throw. It's a heck of an effort. It would have just been a great catch.
You can't class that one as a drop. George from behind, knocked down. They're going to say it's an incomplete pass. Hit from behind by William Thomas, the third-year linebacker from Texas A&M.
William Thomas is 218 pounds. But Ken Rhodes, a special team star for the Eagles, is a weight room fanatic. He's taken William Thomas, brought him into the weight room. This guy plays a lot stronger than 218.
3rd and 10 for the Colts. The Eagles, flags are down. It looked like 2 of the Eagles were about 3 yards offside. Let's see if they were drawn.
There's your flag.
Offside. Defense, number 59. 5 yards. Still 3rd down.
They were not drawn.
Well, you know, you've got 2 downs to pick up a 1st down. Certainly, this is not a situation where Ted is going to try a field goal if it's 4th down and 5 or 4th down and 1.
I don't know. He needs a field goal and 2 touchdowns, but you have the feeling if you're this close, they haven't gotten this close very often.
No, Mike, they ain't going to get it. I mean, let's face it. But I think you go for 7 here.
Couldn't argue with you. Here comes the blitz. And knocked away at the last moment. Excellent coverage. Wes Hopkins got a hand on it. Ben Smith was covering Langhorne.
That's what happens, I think, when you're a veteran in this league. That time, Wes Hopkins saw Jeff George lock on to the receiver, and he just anticipated the play. Left part of your screen. I mean, Jeff throws this thing so hard, Wes can't make a play on it.
They said Wes Hopkins was cut earlier in the season because he couldn't run. Wes Hopkins could never run. He's the first to tell you he couldn't.
That's the Art Monk syndrome. He can't run either. He's just great.
But they can both play. 4th down, the Colts trying to stay alive. George under pressure, somehow got away. Throws to Arbuckle, dive, 1st down. You gotta love it.
I'm telling you, I mean, this is the way the series had to go. I mean, they had to take this drive and just try and make 1st down. All this is heart by Jeff George. He stands in there. Thomas has got him, switches hands with the ball, still trying to buy help, and just strong arms it up the field.
What a nice job by Arbuckle, too. So a fresh series of downs with 6:49 left to go in the game. They need to score and score in a hurry. George to the end zone. Incomplete. Dawkins had a man all over him. And Dawkins wants an interference call. He's not going to get it. Mark McMillan, who gives up about 7 inches.
I gotta believe that's the matchup you're looking for. 5'7" versus 6'4". Dawkins going to the corner. I mean, it's close enough for a no call, but there's another one where you got to make a play.
2nd and 10 for the Colts.
I'd wear that match out up.
Yeah. They're set to the right side. McMillan backing off. On the draw to Potts, no dice. Andy Harmon, who's made some big plays, makes the stop. The crowd didn't like the call.
I don't mind, not a bit. You've been throwing. I like that. Maybe you pop it through like I said before. You still got 2 downs to try, and actually you get to the 3 and pick up a 1st down.
3rd and 9. This is taking a lot of time off the clock. Short fumble to snap from center. The Eagles have it. Oh, man. It just clanked off his hands. Byron Evans recovers. The drive is over. It's still 20-3. Loudermilk, the center on the left, Jeff George, the quarterback on the right, and they fouled up the center exchange, turned the ball over, and then they had words when they left the field.
This is the exchange. Looks like Kurt snapped it a little bit early. The reason I say that is no one else on the line was moving. Now here's the conversation coming off the field. This is just frustration. I mean, you know, you get frustrated, you say things out on the field. Sometimes the temperatures get to a point where better that a teammate steps in between and breaks it up.
Now we saw Jeff George jawing at his receivers. Now, very rightfully so earlier in the ballgame when they missed passes and nobody ever came back and said anything.
That's frustrating.
But Kirk Loudermilk is, you know, he's not going to back down on that one.
I'll tell you, it's as frustrating for offensive linemen to give you good pass protection and have things not execute as it is for a quarterback throwing the ball and having not good things happen. And all this is it's a culmination of a frustrating evening on offense.
Loudermilk, one of the big free agent acquisitions in the offseason.
But you know the thing that's going to put them back together? Colts get the ball back. Both those guys got to go back on the field.
Yeah. Eagles will try to work on the clock with 5:32 to go in the game. Walker, Syracuse wraps him up the line of scrimmage. About 45,000 on hand here at the Hoosier Dome, and our Budweiser storyline. Jeff George, 203 yards passing. Not a big night for Bubby Brister either. 210. Herschel Walker, the all-around player. Turnovers, Indianapolis has committed 3, but the big story, the Colts working on 21 straight quarters without an offensive touchdown.
And a frustrating night for that man.
Brister on 3rd down. Picked off by Buchanan. Trying to lateral, gets rid of it. Belser back across the 50. Ray Buchanan with his 4th interception, which leads the team, and just played center field on that one.
Bubby wishes he had this one back. Of course, the last time he threw the ball down the middle of the field, it should have been intercepted by Quentin Coriat. But what happens is sometimes as a quarterback, when you read the defense, as he's looking down the field, there isn't anybody out here. So you figure that's a good place to have a receiver go to. He reads it, he sets, he fires. I mean, it's not a bad idea, except that it's thrown considerably over the receiver's head. He looks to the right. Now he sees downfield. He sees the receiver. He lets it go, and it's way over Calvin Williams' head.
Yes, Rick Venturi, what he thinks of Buchanan, he says, we like him immensely. The rookie has 4 picks. George back to work. He airs one out for Hester, and it's out of bounds. Perfect coverage by Eric Allen.
See, Mike, I got to be honest with you. I'd put Jeff George back in the shotgun. He took that entire drive, darn near 80 yards, out of a shotgun. Then they got down close. They went back into a under the center, the regular T formation. I'd let him go back in the shotgun. I think he functions very well back there.
Sure seems to.
That's where he is now.
Time, a huge factor here. The Colts still need 3 scores and only 4.5 minutes left. That one's completed. Cash chased by Thomas.
See, he has room to move back there. If he's under the center dropping back, the linemen get up the field and confine him too much. Watch him slide to the left. See, the linemen don't can contain him as much. See how he just slides to the left and flicks the ball out?
Well, he does have a gun.
Unbelievable.
4-man rush. Another completion. Hester got out of bounds. The Eagles defense coming into this game, 27th against the rush. Only the Colts were worse, and yet the Colts have not tried to run the ball very much. They have 31 yards rushing tonight. And again, you pointed out some good reasons for that, but statistically, that's the story.
Yeah, you'd think you wanted to pound it, but they haven't.
George hanging in the pocket, throwing, Langhorne, touchdown. The streak is broken. Now you have to think back to the last possession when they turned it over. If they could have scored then, you've got a 3-point ball game.
Wes Hopkins in the middle. Jeff George, see him look, he looked down the middle, then he looked right, looked back for a second. Now again, that's just a great throw. Absolute great throw.
Ben Smith a half step behind and is beaten for the touchdown. Biasucci will be kicking only his 15th extra point of the entire year. 20-10 as the Colts break the scoring drought. (20-10) as the Colts have scored to cut the lead. 4:18 to go. The numbers on Jeff George. Had at least 4 balls dropped tonight and has thrown for 251 yards. They are lined up for the onside kick with 4:18 to go. They still need 2 scores. Biasucci gets the bounce. And the Eagles touched it last, knocked out of bounds. He got the bounce.
What a great play by Heath Sherman. He does not try and go up and field this ball in the field of play. What he does, go up and play volleyball and just knock it out of bounds.
Somebody from the Colts actually got a hand on it. Couldn't hold it.
Chris Good, 37, had a shot at it, but it winds up going up in the air.
The receivers were the last to touch the ball before it went out of bounds. So it's the receiver's ball at the spot where it went out of bounds. First down. We have an injury.
And one of the Colts is down.
And I believe that's Chris Good, 37. This is the perfect kick. Biasucci kicks the big hop. There it is. There's the play. Good goes up to try and make the play. Now watch Sherman, 23. Doesn't try and catch it. Just knocks it out of bounds. That's really heads-up football.
Eric Allen was the guy who kept Good from getting possession. And then Sherman made the volleyball play. And Good was the injured player. Hope you'll be with us tomorrow night at 7:30, Prime Monday, with Mike Tirico, Joe Theismann, and Craig James, previewing the Monday night game, a must game for the Saints against the Giants. Live reports from the Superdome with Andrea Kramer. Chris Mortensen will have the breaking news around the league. Downtown Julie Brown goes backstage with Rodney Hampton. All that and much more on NFL Prime Monday. Indianapolis with all of its timeouts left. Walker with the carry at midfield. Pickett makes the tackle, and the Colts will use this series to burn their timeouts and try to get it back.
This is a participating McDonald's restaurant.
Still go back to the possession before this. If they don't fumble, if they get a touchdown, it's a 3-point game. If they have to go for the field goal, they're only down by a touchdown. That turnover really hurts. But you don't like that field goal idea.
Well, I don't like the field goal idea, but yeah, what's to say that Bubby's going to throw an interception? I mean, you know, maybe they run the ball a little bit. I understand what you're saying. I don't disagree with it, but, you know, is he going to throw an interception if they score? Hard to say. The thing that I wonder about is, with Herschel Walker only back there, instead of trying to kick it, maybe you kick it deep over Herschel's head.
You've got a better voice. You have to sing this.
All I want for Christmas is my Sports Center highlights. Da, 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 da.
Boy, I'm sorry I asked.
I know what it is.
Yeah.
Da, 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 da.
Yeah, I will never make the statement you have a better voice than I do again. I'd have had a shot at that one.
I like da, da, da.
Brister to throw, and throws complete to Sherman, and Sherman may have rolled for the first down.
That's a good call by Rich Kotite. You know that the Colts are going to be up there trying to stop your run, so he lets Bubby just throw the football.
Sports Center, of course. I was waiting. Does come up right after our broadcast, and the Colts will use another timeout. And now things pretty well in hand for the Philadelphia Eagles. They will be about a foot short of a first down, and if they get it, they can run out most of the clock. Ted Marchibroda engineered quite a turnaround for this club last year. They finished 9-7 after they were 1-15, and you don't do that just as the result of a fifth-place schedule either.
No, not just as a result, but you know, his football team really wasn't as good as a 9-7 record indicated. I think they played over their heads a little bit. And then they hit a stretch early in this season where I think they played Miami in Miami, Buffalo, and Dallas. And you know, they hit them all when they were playing well. They got Dallas with Emmett back. The problem with the Colts, Mike, is here in Indianapolis, they don't have any tradition.
True.
They're not, I mean, there isn't an Indianapolis Colt that you can bring back here to talk to this football team to talk about winning. And the Baltimore Colts won't do it. They've tried to get the Baltimore Colts to come here, but I think the guys in Baltimore would feel like they'd be betraying the city.
Walker trying to get the first down, and he does. Buchanan stuck a shoulder in there. It was 34 against 34, and he made the tackle.
Jimmy Irsay watching again the same situation that he's had to put up with. Vice president and general manager. Been a general manager in this league since he was 24 years old. He's now 34. Is on the expansion committee, I should say the realignment committee. And I asked him about that too. He said, yeah. He said, I think there's going to be some type of realignment, but not major movement. A team like, say, Tampa Bay moving out of that NFC Central. And there's Bob Irsay.
And Bob Irsay, quite honestly, one of the reasons that the veteran Colts will not come back here because they don't feel like this is their football team anymore.
And I think the key title is not necessarily president, but the other one that said treasurer. and they have been willing to open up the purse strings.
Well, they did this past offseason, $18 million for free agents.
Unfortunately, Wolford can't play.
Right.
I mean,
rotator cuff.
Loudermilk has done an excellent job at center. I mean, if you want to look into the crystal ball for the Indianapolis Colts, I think the future is extremely bright if they add some offensive weapons.
Colts are now out of timeouts, and they want either a wide receiver with great speed or a running back with great speed to match up with Potts, and they need a defensive end. And this could be a pretty solid ball club. Walker bounces off a tackle and stays inbounds as he got to the 29-yard line.
That's that give a little, go get them. I mean, it was an interesting philosophy. It was very interesting listening to him talk about a running style. He says if you go at people with force, they can hold on to you. If you hit them with force and give a little bit, they have nothing to hold on to. And then he sort of readjusts and goes.
Herschel with 106 yards combined. That will take his total up to 1164 for the year in combined yards. Not bad for a guy who has played mostly fullback this year. Had to block a lot. Clock running at 2:48 to go in the game. Sherman carrying tackles with him down to about the 33-yard line. And a very proud group of football players, the Philadelphia Eagles, are going to get their 6th win of the year and mathematically at least stay alive in the playoff chase.
You know, I talked to Rich Kotite, I talked to Ted Marchibroda. The two men have said the same thing. They're very proud of the effort that they've gotten from their football team. And I think Rich Kotite said it all year long. These guys have hung in and played hard for me. This football team, if they'd have gotten some kicks a week ago and a couple of plays the week before that, I mean, they're looking at 9-5. Easy.
And, of course, the guy that they cut, Matt Barr, after he missed 2 field goals a week ago, Rich Kotite had a lot of praise for him as his individual character. Said he's a quality kid. He's not a kid, certainly not a kid anymore. And then he goes to New England and kicks a game-winning field goal today.
Kickers are so baffling.
And it will be shy of a first down. Excuse me, it is a first down? Well, I had the same look that the Colts had. It looked like about 1.5 inches short.
Look, the Goose turns around. He says, you got to be kidding me. If it's 1 inch short, is it automatic? Look at Tony. He still doesn't believe it. And I don't believe what I just saw.
No, I don't blame him. That was short.
You got to be kidding. That's what's going through his head. Look at it.
Well, it may be very academic at this point with 2:10 left in the game. Colts out of timeout. Sherman. Siragusa got a hand on him and then got some help. And we have reached the 2-minute warning. Actually, 1:58 to go from the Hoosier Dome. A 10-point lead for the Eagles. Here's the fumble that may have cost the Colts a shot at this ball game. The previous series before the one where they scored the touchdown, where Loudermilk and George were not on the same page as they were deep in Philadelphia territory, and then they had a heated exchange as they left the field. This was not an early Christmas greeting by any stretch of the imagination.
Both of them want to win.
Walker bangs to the 20. We have showed you our turnover chart all year long, and it has become extremely revealing. 3+ turnovers, you win 20% of the time. And that's what the Indianapolis Colts had tonight. Here's the turnover story. The Eagles had the one late interception by Brister, the Colts with 3. That's why you hear coaches talk about not turning the ball over. Sherman in the eye behind Walker. Clock running, 1:13 to go. Sherman tries to cut it outside, and Ray Buchanan made the tackle. That young man has had a very impressive showing tonight at free safety.
Tackle by Ray Buchanan.
You know, I mean, he had an incredible senior year. Big Ray, they call him. Big play Ray. 3 block punts, 1 block field goal, interceptions, big plays when he was in college. And that's what he's going to be doing for the Colts, making big plays.
Made Tom Jackson proud out of Louisville.
Of course, Jason Belzer played strong safety at Oklahoma, so he's back to a natural position.
Clock running, 32 seconds to go in the game. 4th and 2 for the Eagles. Sherman, he's got the first down to the 6-yard line. Buchanan makes the tackle to save the touchdown, but it's a fresh series of downs for the Eagle offense, and that will do it. Herschel Walker, a big night for the Eagles, showing you his tremendous versatility and frustration for the Colts offense, although they finally broke that long scoring drought with a touchdown in the 4th quarter. The final score from the Hoosier Dome, the Eagles 20, the Colts 10. For Joe Theismann and our entire ESPN crew, this is Mike Patrick. Good night from Indianapolis. SportsCenter is next after this.